Welcome to the Lost Lowdown, podcast number 200 with your hosts, Justin and Claude.
What's up, guys?
We are back, continuing our season 6 commentary series with episode 616, What They Died For.
I know what you're all thinking. Why do Claude and Justin have opposite voices today? Well, if you'll remember our seldom used tradition.
Very seldom. This is what is this? Wait, let me count it.
Third
Right.
time, I
1, 2,
think?
3, 1, 2, the fourth time.
The
Right?
fourth time? I think only 3 times. Every 50.
Right. So
We
we
didn't
did
do we
50,
didn't do the first time.
100, 150, 200. Right?
Oh, you're right. That's how accounting works. So as you'll remember from those podcast numbers, 50, 100, and 150, every 50 Lost Lowdowns, Justin does the intro. I don't know why we did that. Clearly, it's for the entertainment value of our listeners. I hope you guys get as much out of that as you can.
This might be the last one I do, so I hope you
Unless we
enjoyed
do
it.
50 more podcasts, which we could if we wanted to.
We could. We
Yeah,
could. I don't know what's happening after we end this show,
yeah.
commentary stuff, but yeah, it's I think on the 50th one I had something like idea of like, oh, it'd be cool if I did the intro just for a little
Mhm.
weird celebration of our 50th, and then like once we got to it's crazy because that's the only one that actually happened during the original run of the show, because
Mm,
83 was the finale, so we didn't get to 100 until the commentaries. um so there have been more of those than there were of the original stuff, because we've done the whole show with the commentaries, not just season 2 episode 21 to the end. So
mhm.
so anyway, just to say, yeah, it's a weird, rare tradition that I feel the need to honor, even though I don't know how many of you were hoping for this, but
Well,
I
how
feel like
many
those of you who have
wonderful
listened for a
people?
long time probably knew to expect it.
Yeah, congratulations.
Well done. Pat yourselves on the back.
I mean, well, while everyone's patting themselves on the back, let's also pat ourselves on the back for 200 podcasts.
Yeah, not
I
bad,
mean,
right?
that's a lot of podcasts.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
I mean, some might say too many.
Way too many.
I mean, maybe we should have stopped at 100, but
Yeah, yeah. 200 podcasts, and we're coming up on the 15th anniversary of the first one this May. So
wow, 15. 15 what?
15 years.
15 years.
15 Earth years, yes.
15 Earth human years.
Earth human years. That's
Yeah, that's a lot of Earth human years. Some might say too many.
right. Yeah,
Um,
many would say that, and they wouldn't be wrong.
yeah, I was just kind of look back to see how long it's okay. So listen, it's taken us a while to do this, 200 podcasts, at least
Ah,
almost
a little
50 years,
while.
as you just mentioned.
Yeah.
And There's the
What's
math you
that
could do.
average out to?
Yes, exactly. You could do some math.
Let's see the math here. So we're doing
7.5
around
or something.
13
Oh
and a
yeah,
third podcast per year. So it's a little over one per month.
that's not so bad when
Yeah.
you put it that way. I mean, yes. Listen, sometimes there's years in between podcasts, maybe.
Right. But sometimes we release 5 in a week.
Exactly. That's how
So
averages work. So it all works out.
yeah, you never know what to expect.
I like that
You
our
like
intros and our podcasts are just us talking about our podcast.
I do too.
Got a
That's a
lot to say.
long tradition.
I mean, 200 podcasts. I was almost at 200 years.
Oh my god. Yikes. Not yet.
Still don't know what the island is after 200 years of talking.
Is the island anything? That's my
Guys,
question.
we've got it. There is no island. The island was dead the whole time. Yeah, so I was just kind of
Yikes.
looking back. So 10 years ago would have been 2011, January 2011.
Right, right.
And just for some sort of mile marker here, we had just released January 30th, 2011, we released podcast number 88.
Yeah, sounds about right. Yep,
Yeah.
that was right after the show ended. We took a hiatus and then we came back and started the commentaries.
So we've done 121 podcasts since in 10 years.
Mm-hmm. Sounds about right. Sounds about right.
Wow. Okay.
It's not bad. Yeah, it's pretty close to like one per month.
The one per month thing that keeps coming back. Can't get away from it.
I think it's interesting that we average out to that. I wouldn't have
Yeah.
expected that.
I wouldn't have expected that either. But yeah, I think it's interesting. We could up that average if we just bust a whole bunch out more and
Did more? Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, so we're getting to the end of this run of the podcast, and obviously this is the second to last episode of the show.
Kind of a big deal.
So in the I think it's a little deal, and
a little big deal,
a little medium deal, and
that's what you'll allow. Okay,
it's a medium, small, big deal.
Medium, small, big deal. Okay, cool.
Yeah, and what was I going to say? So we haven't released. Excuse me while I take a drink of water. I'm parched.
Oh, by all means.
Okay, unparched. What was I going to say? Oh yeah, so it's been a couple months since we released the last podcast over the previous episode. And in that time period, across the sea, thank you. I've forgotten. Because of what they did.
Right. It's always their fault.
In that time, you have rewatched from beginning pilot to the end, all of Lost.
That is correct.
And in that same amount of time, I have not done that at all. But I have watched, amongst other things, 12 seasons of ER.
Will that help?
So stay tuned. Podcast 200, folks. A lot of ER references coming because that's all I prepared. So speaking of ER, it's a show about doctors. Jack Shephard is a doctor.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I think there are some scenes from Lost, possibly even some scenes from this episode or the next one that I think were filmed on the set of Grey's Anatomy, which is not ER.
It's not ER, but
it is a medical show.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, that's my comment.
Well, I think that was a worthwhile comment, and I'll go back to what I was saying, which was that you've been so you have an extra special take on whatever we're going to talk about in this episode and the next episode, because up until that point, neither of us had seen these episodes of Lost that we're covering in the commentary series since they originally aired.
Right. Which so that time is growing a lot.
Yes, a lot of time, like 10 years.
Since, exactly. Yeah, that's a lot. And
I'm setting the stage here for whatever you're going to say. Sure. And you've also been re-listening to old Lost Lowdown episodes, like the original run stuff, right?
Yes,
which
indeed.
I, in this time, have not been doing. But I haven't listened to old episodes of the ER podcast.
The ER podcast? Who was on that one?
I mean, it's funny. I could name people and you wouldn't know. Like, would you even know if I made up names?
You're totally right. I have no who ran the show ER. I have no idea. Was it Michael Crichton?
It was Dr. Michael Crichton.
Dr. Michael Crichton, MD,
Yeah,
please.
MD. ER, what I think John Wells is one of the
Okay.
EPs. Yeah, I actually don't know who the showrunner was through those. There's like 4 names that come up at the end: Crichton and John Wells and 2 other people who I
Mm.
should remember their names, but I don't. But I don't know. Yeah, that's a great. I mean, listen, let's do a podcast about who the showrunner was on ER because that's important.
I agree. I agree.
So anyway, I just wanted to catch the listeners up that a little bit of our commentary is going to be different because you will have remembered and thought more about these next 2 episodes a bit more, since you've just rewatched a lot of that stuff.
Indeed.
Or all
Yeah. 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 I think that's probably worth noting. This isn't really the time to sit and do some psychoanalysis, but
of
I
it.
I think there's something about something made
See, if we
me
had a producer, they could play like some violin music right now as we go this serious moment of
yeah,
psychoanalysis.
I don't get serious very often here.
Quiet
But
on the set, everyone. Justin's getting serious, please. Can we have all attention and seriousness is on? Go.
but yeah, there's something I can't explain it exactly. Is it nostalgia? Um can I think of any other explanation?
Cabin fever.
Yeah, cabin fever, that's a good one. Is it just some weird emotional um security blanket, I mean,
Mm.
I- you know when you spend this much time on a TV show, you form a bond with it that I think just can't really compare to any other thing that you
Oh,
would
so okay.
watch.
So are you saying you're having some separation anxiety? Is
Yeah,
that
and I
yeah?
think that's part of it too. The fact that we're reaching the end of these,
Mm-hmm.
it really made me want to look back and kind of think about the podcast as a whole, think about the show as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
So it just felt like a good time to do that for all of those reasons and possibly more. Um, so yeah, so it's super cool. I really okay. I mean, partially it's a little frustrating. I don't necessarily approve of everything that I said on the old podcast. I listen to him now and it's like, oh, shut up already sometimes. But um
Are you
uh
quoting our listener Tuesdays?
I'm gonna guess probably around mm,
199 Lost Lowdown episodes.
oh my god. I'm gonna say somewhere between 15 to 20 full episodes from the original run.
Wow.
Um, Now, some of them are short. Like if you listen to Lost Lowdown 1, which I recommend because it's really hilarious to hear where we started with all this. It's like a breezy hour and a half. Like
Yeah, which is
it
too long
flies by.
back then. That was too long. Yep.
Exactly. Yeah, it was like, oh my god, we gotta wrap this up. We had segments. It's
Yep.
hilarious.
Yep.
Like lost news. All right, time for news. Like it was weird.
Well, it was the one spot on the internet anyone could find out anything about the TV show Lost. So we had an obligation.
That was our job.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, and I listen to like special episodes, like ones that I found particularly interesting, like The Man Behind the Curtain.
Mhm.
Um I listened to Cabin Fever. That's a long one. Oh my god. Um Ji Yeon was really a good one. I recommend that one strongly. And I haven't gotten
the podcast, not the episode.
yeah, the podcast.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think, I do think there's something really interesting about that episode, even if it's not necessarily the best episode in Lost History. It's yeah, it's unique. It's unique. And I think it inspired us in a weird way. Um we got it. Yeah, it was a long one. I mean, we did like 7 hours on that.
Mhm.
And uh the life and death of Jeremy Bentham, um the variable, the constant. um I haven't actually listened to a whole finale one, because those are long.
Yeah.
But what I will say is I did listen to the What They Died For podcast
Okay.
in full. And I listened to the first 2 hours of the final podcast, which we're still not even doing the episode recap by that point. We're just like
We're talking about Lost or something?
we're talking about Lost in general. We had a debate about the nature of reality. It was really
Just one?
just one.
So far,
I mean,
yeah.
so far.
Debating about the nature. Yeah, I mean I don't know why the show becomes that, and by the like that's what you do when you're talking about Lost. Like start with the nature of reality, or else we won't be able to get anywhere productive.
Yeah, like you were trying to argue that The Flash Sideways was a kind of because like the interesting thing that was happening, up until this episode that we're on right now, is that we were thinking of The Flash Sideways as this alternate universe that was
Mhm.
created by Jughead. Which, why were we thinking that? Because they wanted us to,
Yeah, because it's their
obviously. Yeah, like they basically like, yeah, like made us think that. And then they said, like, why did you think that? But anyway, um when once they reveal what it really is, it kind of threw us off. And I wanted to say like it wasn't real,
Mhm.
and you were like, no, it is. It's just like perspective.
Mhm. Sounds like me.
um and that's kind of where the debate centered. It probably went on a little longer than it needed to, but it was interesting to hear like the kind of stuff that the show inspires. I think that's something I really like about the show is like it makes you think about certain things that you can usually, with most shows, you can take for granted. Like, what is the real world in this show? Like,
Mhm.
these are things that you don't really have to spend time on usually. So it was fun to hear us try to unravel, well, if there is an afterlife, what does that mean in
Mhm.
terms of reality, if anything. And yeah, I think, and I think the other thing that really stood out for me is, especially from the late stage stuff, like Across the Sea, What They Died For, like the era we're in right now, is like this sense, this desperation that I had, that like I needed the show, I needed the stuff on the show, I needed the island, I needed, stopping the Man in Black. I needed that stuff to matter. I needed it to be important. And it was very frustrating to me that the show was never willing to fully confirm that it was. It
Mhm.
forced me, and I literally said this on the podcast, like, for my own sanity, I need to believe this. And it's like that's what Lost does to me. It's like
Mhm.
I'm forced into this weird psychological position of like I have to decide what I want the show to be, and then agree that I
Mhm.
believe that it's that, so that I don't go crazy.
Which is life. I mean, that's literally what we do in
I
life.
know.
Is decide what things mean, and even if they don't mean that, I feel like there's movies like that, right? Oh, you know what that is? That's Memento, right?
Yeah.
That's the ending
Yeah.
of Memento, of saying, "No, no,
Yeah.
no, no. This is what reality is, and we're just gonna act this way." And,
Yeah.
and that's really what we do, right? As human beings, is we invent reality for our own selfish needs until, until it brushes up against the hard edges of reality that we aren't able to really change, right? So you can say, this tree here is purple until ask other people and they say it's not, right, or something. It's like you can sort of get your way in reality. It's malleable in a way, right? You can define things. But then there's these laws of nature and physics
Hmm.
that you don't necessarily have control over, so you get so you get that weird thing with meaning and subjectivity, and I just, and that stuff that Lindelof plays with all the time of just like, how we interpret events, and well, this thing happened, and then this thing happened, and then this thing happened, and based on the chronology of these things, I'm going to interpret a meaning, but if things were able to occur in a different sequence, you could get a different meaning from that, and that's like the basis of film editing, right? Is how you put things in a sequence to tells the viewer how they're supposed to interpret it, you know. Um, that's one of the things you learn, like in film school, and like we learned in our editing classes, is if someone picks up a fork and then you see somebody chewing, the second shot is them chewing, you go, oh, they picked up a fork and put it in their mouth and they're eating, right?
Right.
But if you see a shot of somebody chewing and then you see a shot of somebody picking up a fork, it doesn't have the same linear meaning because it doesn't, you know, track with normal life the way we normally like interpret things. So yeah, it's interesting that so we're used to using that skill in surviving life. So it's interesting to bring that into watching a TV show,
Hmm.
because it's like you don't watch like Charles in Charge and go, listen, I have to believe he's in charge or else I'm going to go crazy.
Right.
Charles
Right.
in charge. Now, the show is telling me that sometimes he's not in charge, but I can't handle that. Um,
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. And I think the thing that I hadn't realized at the time, and yeah, I think neither one of us, like, we did get that, like, perspective was important, we did get like a kind of hint of that idea, like, behind the show. But I think the thing, or a thing that we were missing, was that, that idea of like how you perceive and understand the world, you know it actually is like a fundamental part of the show. Like, that's how it works. I think I didn't really get that at the time. And so I think I was struggling against how the show worked because I didn't really understand it fully. And so I was having this kind of almost tantrum or something. It's just this like reaction of like, no, I want it to be like this, and it's not, and I'm just gonna pretend like it is.
mhm. Yeah, I the whole yeah, I mean that definitely was one of the big things that crystallized for us in terms of what the show was about. After the show ended, when Carlton and Damon, you know, finally revealed the two questions
Right.
that the show was trying to answer, which is, what's the meaning of life and what happens after you die. And
Right.
so yeah, that was the two questions when we started the commentary series, was to go back and investigate, okay, is that just pretentious artist bullshit? Like, or is that a real thing you guys were doing scene to scene and episode to episode? And then when you see that, you do see how that's part of the mechanism of the show, is using the concept of meaning and how things are related to each other. And then you see how so many of the most critical, important parts of the show are built around that. You
Yeah.
know, we obviously talk a lot about orientation, where Locke and Echo see the same orientation film and get two completely different meanings about whether they should press the button or not. And
Right.
that was and what's interesting about that, is that event on the show, a piece of it was always so confusing, of like, I don't understand, this is not how normal life works, on TV shows, normal life, you
Right.
know if you see something and it says something, that's what it means. But how do
Yeah.
two characters characters not only take away two different meanings, but one switches from his original meaning that was a huge part of his character, you
Right.
know? And so it's like, I don't understand why they're doing this, but when you put in that piece of them, this is the point, then you go, okay, they have
Mhm.
to come away with two different meanings because otherwise the show isn't proving the point it's proving. Like
Right.
back to the nature of like reality and how these things work. And you know, with 2020 that we just wrapped up, the year that
Ooh.
is, um, meaning and reality and what things mean were so important this year. You know, what does a mask mean? What, you know, um, does it mean freedom or oppression?
Mhm.
You only pick one. Uh, Neither is somehow not an option. And you know, and it's like, what is, what does it mean that you can't be around people? And what is it, it's like all these
Yeah.
things, right? And what are the traditions that we normally have mean? And what are the appropriate reactions, right, from governments and all these things and different, we saw what other countries did and how that worked, and is that good? Like I saw an article, from an expatriated American living in South Korea, and he was like, "Yeah, we've had like 400 deaths or something relatively
Mhm.
small, but we had like 9 months of pretty harsh lockdown or something like that, So it
Right.
was a weird thing of like you give up this thing to get this other thing, but yeah, it's interesting. Okay, so going back to what you were just saying about the bargaining stage of grief, I think,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's
you
definitely
know,
what it was.
yeah, I mean, what the show ends up, and I still don't think people know what the show is really about.
I
And that's
agree. I agree.
that's why we're gonna have to write our lost book,
Mhm.
across
Yeah.
the world. What was really happening here? But yeah, it's a weird thing to try to really figure it out and to see. It's almost like the characters and the story and the set design and all the physical elements that is the TV show, or that are the TV show, um, are not what the show's about. You know,
Right.
it's like it's like it's almost like if you were trying to communicate something to somebody, um, that was a crazy concept. So instead of telling them directly or using, you know, like maybe formal language or something, you decide to tell them a story or present a metaphor for the idea, and it's like that's what
Mhm.
Lost is. Lost is a metaphor in the form of a TV show that is trying to communicate this other separate thing that is is underpinning everything the show is, but also isn't quite obvious. You know,
Yeah.
does that make sense? I don't know if you agree with that analogy, but I feel like that's how
I
it
think
comes off
so. Yeah, yeah.
of like, yeah, this just a weird thing where you're being entertained and you're seeing the lessons, you're seeing the themes play out, but because they are not always um, normally intuitive with how normal TV and storytelling goes, and B, not always intuitive with how real life goes. The show presents all these confusing moments where you're trying to reconcile, like, how are these things supposed to work and why is this confusing in the beginning to begin with, but that is the evidence of the original idea they're trying to communicate. I feel like that's how I would put it, is the pieces that are weird, that stick out, that are hard to grapple with, are the sort of evidence that there's something deeper underneath that it's about. And if that deeper thing wasn't there, you wouldn't see these other pieces, if that makes sense. That's how I think about
Mhm.
it.
Yeah.
Just be a normal show.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think that's the other thing about it that throws people and threw me for years is that like a lot of times it does act like a normal show. It pretends
Mhm,
like things are just happening. The characters are reacting, and the plot is progressing, and A follows B, or the other way around. Anyway, you know what I mean? Like you can watch Lost and kind of just like go with the flow and just say like, okay, well, I guess that's the show. I mean, there's plenty of shows with inconsistencies and unresolved questions and stuff like that, but I think if you spend a lot of time like we have, like trying to actually make sense of it, like I think at some point you have to run into something like the idea that we have, or you just go crazy. Um,
mhm,
because it's so. I mean, if you just pick like one little thing, it just dissolves. It's like what were they doing? Like it's uh and it's fine if they do it, with a few things, but it's like it's a recurring theme through the entire show, every
yeah,
season. I mean, there's
mhm,
no exception.
yeah,
It's amazing how much they got away with just like this, like, okay, here's the thing, and here's what's driving the plot is like this big thing, and then at
mhm,
the end it's like, wait, did that thing matter?
mhm, mhm,
And I just can't believe how often that happened. Like it's weird
yeah,
for a show to do that. And I think I was just having a hard time coming to terms with that. I really wanted to believe like within the world of Lost, like, okay, like there's some unanswered questions. Maybe I don't know what the cabin was about. Maybe I don't know
mhm,
what the ash does, or maybe I don't know what claiming means, but at the very least, the island like is important for the world, and if the island were destroyed it would have big
mhm.
global consequences, and I just really needed that to be true.
They would not give us the satisfaction.
They
It's the
absolutely refused.
same thing that I have about the incident. Like, I
Yeah.
just wish they would have said, "Guys, wrap it up in a nice, neat little bow and say, listen, the reason the Losties came to the island was so that they could go back in time and prevent the incident from destroying the world." Like,
Mm-hmm.
it did matter that they were there. It did matter they interacted with Dharma in the 70s. It did matter that Juliet exploded Jughead how she did. All these things did matter. Um, but yeah, and that's the part I would like to pick apart somehow with Carlton and Damon is how conscious are they of never letting us have the satisfaction of that, or is that just a more organic byproduct of how they're telling the story?
Mm-hmm.
Because by the end of the show, the end in the church, well, it really seems like all this mattered. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you've got Christian Shepherd ushering them into the afterlife. I mean, they created a whole Flash Sideways based on whatever bullshit. Like, yeah, something important happened.
Right.
Because it's like, well, was this, and it goes, like, I just thought of Alana blowing
Mm-hmm.
up on the beach,
Yeah.
that thing when something seemed important. I mean, Jacob himself recruited her,
Yeah.
presumably, quasi canon his daughter,
Right.
and then she's useless after 2 or 3 episodes, and boom, she's gone. Did that matter? Did it,
Oh
yeah.
man.
So you get into that whole thing, and
And
that's
the
what's
whole setup for that is totally ridiculous. It's like he's like, okay, Alana. Like I love this. I love this because like, okay, so he says, okay, Alana, first you when you get to the temple, then ask Ricardus what to do next.
Oh, it's the
And
worst.
it's like, okay, first of all, by that
Mhm,
point, the temple's already been destroyed.
mhm, you're late.
They turn to Ricardus and he's like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And eventually he decides to blow up the plane, which was a horrible idea. And
Mhm,
um and Alana blows up with the dynamite to go blow up the
mhm,
plane. So it's
mhm.
like, wow, Jacob, wow. Great
And
plan.
you wonder why the villain was winning all these years. I mean, yeah, his plan was awful. And then you go, and because it's lost, you go, maybe he wanted it to happen that way.
Right, right, right. All part of the plan.
He told them all the wrong things.
Yeah, yeah. No, I wanted Ricardus to come up with a horrible plan. Like, okay.
I told Alana to ask Ricardus what to do because I know that she really needs to be the one to figure out what to do. Yeah, and it's like, I don't and that's when you have that thing of, is that bad writing or is that the storytelling theme? Is that on
Right,
purpose? And you get in this weird thing where you can just like cover some bad writing with just like, I don't know, maybe Jacob was wrong. Why would he know everything? He didn't
right,
know Ben was
right.
gonna kill him, or did he? Or did he want him to? I mean, he said the worst thing he could say to him in the moment, so
Hmm.
wanted him to kill him. But then that's the thing where like there's no normal plotting where you go, oh, I see. Jacob realized that that Man in Black had him in check, right? He's one move away from checkmate. So
Hmm.
he decides to let Ben kill him so that he'll come back as a Jacob ghost for a little period of
Hmm.
time, and that'll give him this extra quality that he needs to do the Hail Mary play, which is to tell the candidates what the score is, or to go
Hmm.
whatever, you know what I mean. And so by the end of it, it would have been worked out for the better that happened, right? Like that meant that Ben killed Jacob because but it's
Right.
like we don't ever get that kind of thing. We don't ever get that, like, in hindsight, this was the real plan, and this is why it worked that way. Um, yeah, the show doesn't really play by those rules.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, you can't just like count on anything to work really. And I feel like that it runs throughout. And yeah, one way to take it, and many people do, is like, okay, well, it's just a bad show.
Mhm.
Like they just didn't do a good job because like nothing works. Nothing seems to like coalesce. And like in terms of the Flash Sideways, I feel like yes, I mean, what I will put my foot down for, like, as like I really believe this because they showed it to me, is that the stuff that happened on Lost, I mean, to a degree, of course, it depends on each character individually, but it mattered to the characters. you
Mhm.
know, I feel confident saying that. Clearly, it was a significant experience for them, and clearly, it had a huge impact on their lives. Um, so, yeah, that stuff, yeah. And, maybe that's supposed to be enough. The thing that they never did for me was explain, yeah, but did the island matter? You
Mhm.
know, did the island help them create the Flash Sideways? I don't know.
That would have been
Uh,
great to know.
yeah, exactly. Like it feels like it should have been true, and yet Christian never mentions the island. He doesn't say a
Mhm.
word about it. He says the most important part of your life is the time you spend with these people, but he doesn't say on the island. He doesn't specify where. It's like it could have been anywhere,
Yeah.
you know. It matters who they were, and but it didn't really. The island stuff was just like
Mhm.
it just happened
Well,
to
it
be.
also doesn't necessarily clarify if it matters that it was these people. Could it have been any group that was bonded by
Yeah.
hardship
Mhm.
or isolation?
Exactly.
It's not like where no matter what happened in fate, these 6 people or these 8 people would have
Right.
found each other no matter what and had an
Yeah.
experience. It's like that doesn't seem true either.
No,
So
no, no.
yeah.
I agree. And that was another thing that I really liked about the Flash Sideways that I wanted to believe, but then at the end it wasn't clear if that was true or not.
Hmm.
Um, it like I said, and I continue to believe this. The finale that they wrote, I really feel like it not every part obviously, but just the Flash Sideways, the ultimate conclusion, like this afterlife idea. I mean, that could be the ending of almost any show, you
Hmm.
know? Like, and that's just kind of frustrating. And I actually saw I saw something online. I hate to say this because like
Show that that is the most unlike any TV show ever has an ending that any show. That's ironic.
it is very ironic. I agree. Yeah, that's very strange. And I really want to give credit for what I'm going to say next, but I just don't remember, so I can't do it. So feel free to try to internet this, and if you could let me know who actually said this, that'd be great. I'll try to look myself as well. I don't expect you to do my work for me. Anyway, just to say, um, I read this article that made the claim, or maybe it was a podcast. Anyway, that made the claim that like part of the problem with the end of Lost for audiences was the fact that it doesn't end on the island, that it ends in this church.
Mm.
You know, that if the meeting place had been on the island, that would have been more satisfying for audiences because
Mm.
it would bring it back to sort of the status quo or the core idea of where the show takes place, and like it would call to mind like sort of what the show had been
Problem is,
throughout.
it doesn't exist there.
Well, you're absolutely right. Yeah, they very specifically chose not to do that, but I do feel like there's something to that. It's like it's even if it was superficial, just like having them meet up on the island in the
But
afterlife.
that's the same type of satisfaction they deny us in other ways. I
Yeah.
think that that analysis is correct. I think the cyclical nature of it coming back to the island and having the most important scene happen. I think even if he still never mentioned the island, it would have been the
Hmm.
context and the setting, so it would have felt
Exactly. Same lines. You don't change anything. You just change where they are.
exactly what they didn't want to do. They wanted to, because we get the sort of cyclical bookend thing is seeing Jack on the island die, right? We do still see that. We see his eye close after the big battle, right? So we do
Right.
get kind of that kind of bookend, but I think yeah, they want to go one step further and not be about the island. We're in the next place.
Yeah.
Um,
I think that's a problem for me. I think that's the problem for me
in a way, the whole
is
show is a flashback. That's what's weird. In a
yeah,
way, the entire show is one big flashback because all the quote present stuff is the flash sideways stuff.
right. That's like the latest they ever
Yeah,
go. So, and it's after all their deaths, so it's like de
yeah.
facto after everything.
Hmm.
Yeah, no, you're right. Uh yeah, I just wish I just wish they had connected it, and I don't necessarily think that would have been enough for me to be satisfied by the ending, but I do think like connecting it to something more tangible would have been helpful. But I also agree 100% that they didn't want to do
Yeah, because in a way, there's nothing special about the island. That's the problem.
that.
You know, we know it's not the only place on Earth that has a pocket of energy like this. It's not the only place that has healing properties. It just has a unique history, which makes it stand out as special based on the people who were there and the things that they did. Like
Right.
build a machine that can move the island, that may have created a time barrier, that, and
Right.
so all these things that people were finding that makes the island seem unique are really just part of the history, and it like kind of doesn't matter.
Yeah.
That history could have maybe happened somewhere else, and it goes back to that question of meaning. Like, okay, well, is that more meaningful because it had this unique experience that other pockets of land mass on Earth didn't have? Like
Hmm.
does that mean anything? Like you we want to say it does, right? our instinct is to say we grant meaning, right, to things when you're like, oh man, I really need a pen right now, and then like you find one someplace you didn't expect, and you want to imbue some meaning in that. Or oh, I found a penny. Well, it must be lucky. Why is this lucky?
Right.
Just because we
Right.
tell ourselves it is.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a weird, yeah, the whole, and then and then how that interacts with like superstition and all that is interesting too. Um,
Oh yeah, yeah.
which is
Yeah.
something they actually didn't play a lot with, other than Hurley being the main one.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess it was more practical beliefs they were able to mine stories from. They didn't have to do too much superstition kind of stuff because things are already so weird. But yeah, that's what's strange, man. Yeah, so that's why I feel like that commitment to, I believe, uh, affirming that the island isn't inherently special, um, because I think they want the show and the ideas to be more connected, right? They don't, I think the same reason that they have the plethora of religious symbols in the church at the
Oh
end,
yeah.
and the whole concept of what happens after you die. I think they want to say, listen, it's not just if you crash on an island with people that you get to see people that are important to you again, right? You can have this in other ways, right? There's a general path to this afterlife place, and this is one way these people went, right? So I think, like, yeah, you can't make the island extra special if you want to have that same idea. Um, and I think that's so weird and such a bold move, is having the island be underwater, at the beginning of the Flash Sideways
Yeah.
storyline is really interesting, because it really makes the point that it's not about the island.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's true. It's true. Yeah, and the other thing I wanted to say about Jack's Eye closing at the end is, although that's on the island, and although that provides a bookend and a callback to the first shot of the whole show. Um, uh, I think the reason why it doesn't feel satisfying to me is that we talked about this on the finale, and I think we can really start to see it even in this episode. But I think it's in the finale. It's even more dramatic that the the emotional weight and core of what they're focusing on really shifts to the Flash Sideways. And it's
Mm-hmm.
almost like the island becomes, like it was what you just said, a prelude. The island is merely
Mm-hmm.
the stuff that happened before the Flash Sideways.
Yeah. There's a
you
different
know?
version of the show where the first episode of the show is the Flash Sideways stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And as these people wake up, they start remembering a life they forgot. And we just
Yeah.
flash back to the island stuff that was the present stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, that would have made sense. I mean, like that's a way of like shifting the perspective and kind of going back. I think that's what they wanted, kind of going back to and I even remember people saying that in season 6, going back to the idea of, where the show started, which was just like
Hmm.
flashbacks.
Hmm.
Um it's just, if you look at it from the point of view of the Flash Sideways, like we're watching flashbacks.
Yeah.
And it's weird to think about it that way, at least for me, but yeah, like how can how can I prove that's not true? And especially when it feels like the show starts to signal that actually that's the more important part that you
Yeah.
should be paying attention to. The island stuff is just the context for why these people know each other and stuff, but
Mhm.
like what really matters is these people and the connections they made, and that's what we care about. And
Mhm.
I'm just like, no. What about the islands?
Yeah, because that's the stuff we've been enthralled with and focused on for 6 seasons. So that's what we want. That's what we feel connected to and we want answers for, and not
Yeah.
this new thing you made up that you're not really going to spend much time on for
Yeah.
a season. So
And that's the Damon Lindelof pain, I think, is that like it's he builds a mystery for a super interesting thing, and then he tells you that that thing isn't really the most
Mhm.
important thing in the story, and it's
Yeah.
like,
And
oh
then
no.
you can't blame him because he used the tools of storytelling to convince you to of that the mystery was important, but
Mm-hmm.
it's up to you to think about if those tools are being used correctly or fraudulently or like
Yeah.
against you or not. So in the leftovers, there was many plot points where it was like, oh, is this thing gonna happen? And it's like, no, it's not gonna happen. Everybody's
Mm-hmm.
saying it's gonna happen, but that's why it's not gonna happen. You
Right.
know, so you can like counter the Lindelof shuffle, but it doesn't always work.
Mm-hmm.
Did the bagel disappear or is it just stuck? You know,
Right.
and
Right.
yeah, so yeah, it's such a weird thing, and it's definitely not everybody's taste, but it's it's yeah, I don't know anyone else who really does that, who really sets up a mystery, and it's like, but did that even matter?
Yeah, like really? That's the question? Did that even matter? Are you serious? Like, I don't know. It's just hard for me to accept because, like, I get so wrapped up in it, and in the.
I just thought of an analogy where I know I've mentioned this before, Strange Murder on the Orient Express,
Mm-hmm.
but like okay, the island is the context on Lost, so the train would be the context here, and nothing on
Right.
the train matters because they're all dead in a flash sideways where they have their so the train stuff is all flashbacks
Oh my
and
god.
like whatever the murdered person did to all these different people to get
Mm-hmm.
their score, and that's all flashbacks. The stuff on the train is all flash. The investigation is all
Right.
flashbacks, and then it's a
That's
flash side
like basically the
after
Jacob
they died. Yeah,
or the
yeah,
Man in Black, however you want to view it.
yeah. So after they've all died, then they're in another world where they get to like think about what happened on the train. Yeah, it's weird.
It would totally work. It would totally work because they did like share this bond by
Hmm.
all being wronged by the same person and then forming a pact to like,
Hmm.
is this sorry, spoiler alert? I don't know. Um Forming a pact to like, as a group like murder this guy.
Hmm.
Yeah, that would be a totally valid like place to. It would be really weird, but it would, you could take the story there because it fits.
Yeah. It also reminds me a little bit of Identity, the movie Identity.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
You don't have a flash sideways, but you have a alternate reality happening, and
Right. Right.
uh,
Yeah, yeah, it's like going on his head. I mean, I feel like the closest thing, well, I guess there's more than one example, but I think one big version of that in Leftovers was the hotel stuff,
mhm.
which was like super interesting. But then the whole point was I should never go to the hotel again. It's like, God damn it, really? That's the point? Oh boy.
Why was that the point? I don't even remember.
Because you don't remember in season 3, like the last hotel episode, like there's this whole thing. I definitely don't remember all the details, but there's this whole thing where it's like
Spoiler
he's
alert.
gonna. Oh, okay. Yeah, spoiler alert indeed. Check out our leftovers podcast on Mr. Podcast, Mr-podcast.com. Um,
Dot
anyway,
blogspot.com.
what?
Blogspot.com.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You can also do that one. We the regular website works, I think.
Oh.
I think we got that domain. Yay. Uh anyway, it's like he's gonna like blow up the hotel world, and he's like, I have to never come here again because it's like he's using the hotel world as an escape from his real life.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like that ended up being the point. So the whole point was like I have to go back one last time to blow it up, so I never want to go
Oh,
back
I
there
hated
again.
that because it's like
Yeah.
that was his like subconscious getting rid of it somehow or
Yeah.
whatever. Like, um, you can't make another
Exactly.
one? Like, why you don't even know how this one was made, so how do
I
you know,
know, right? And it
like
seemed objective too.
and
It
it
seemed like he was communicating.
that's the problem where it's like it seems like since it's a place he made or whatever, that he can decide what the rules are. So it's like there are no
Mhm.
rules unless he decides the rules. So if he
Mhm.
makes a big enough gesture that he can't come back, like blowing it up, then that'll. It reminds me of the end of Fight Club, right? It's
Yeah.
like he only wins because he thinks hard enough that he wants to kill himself, but he kind
Yeah.
of doesn't accidentally. So therefore, it's this loophole thing.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Anyway, back to Lost. Yeah, it's a weird it's a weird dynamic.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's exactly like that. Which is weird and it's not what I wanted, cuz that hotel stuff was so interesting. It really made me excited about the show and then yeah, and then it just turns around and tells you like no, that was just like a weird coping like really elaborate coping mechanism
Mm-hmm.
and actually it's more important
I
for
overreacted.
yeah, 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 100%. That's what it is.
Mhm.
That's the leftovers version of I overreacted. Oh my god. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I think uh on Watchmen, it's a little more diffuse, like what that is. I think it's a little bit the place where Jeremy Irons is. Um,
Mhm.
it's a little bit like it's. I think it's a little bit like some of the Doctor Manhattan stuff and or the Seventh Cavalry, like all the stuff that like didn't really seem to matter that much in
Mhm.
the end, but that was interesting as the story was building up.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, obviously, spoiler alert for all this stuff if you haven't seen Watchmen, but I was gonna spoil some more stuff and say it and a version of this that they didn't do, but that I think the right analogy would have been if the machine that what's her name created,
Lady True.
yeah, if the whole season they told us that the sole purpose of the machine is to take Dr. Manhattan powers,
Hmm.
if they had been building it up to that, and then at the end that's not what it did, like I feel like that's the version. And she would,
Oh yeah.
what made you think it could do that?
Right.
We've been
Right.
telling you the whole season it could do that, you know. It's like I feel like that's the kind of thing they would do. But that
Well,
went the other way where they didn't tell us what it would do and then they surprised us.
right, right. But I guess if I wanted, I could make it more like the Lost thing because we never see it actually work,
Mm.
you know? So it's like it's possible that it wouldn't have worked. We can't know for sure what it would have done because it doesn't happen.
Oh, that's right. It just it transports him, but it doesn't do the power transfer.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They never complete it. Like the squids fall from the sky and like blow it
Yeah.
up before the process can complete. So it's kind of like the hatch or the Swan Station in that way, where it's like
Hmm.
there's all this build up about it, or the Man in Black leaving the island, if you prefer,
Yeah.
um, or the island being destroyed, if you prefer. They're all kind of along similar lines, where it's like there's a lot of build up, but they never really show you what would
It's
have happened if it worked
yeah,
or if it
it's
failed.
like you said with Man in Black leaving the island. I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions on the show too. Is like, oh, if you don't press the button, the island's gonna blow up and the world's gonna die. And it's like, yeah, that was never true. It was never proven. And then the same with Man in Black. I think is the other number two misconception is like, oh, if he leaves, the world's gonna end or he's gonna kill everybody. It's like he never said that. He
Yeah,
never hinted at it. He
yeah.
never. All he wants to do is go home and
Yeah.
that's it. And the show didn't say what would happen if he went home. This is just what other people thought
Right.
based on some really weird conflating of events,
Mm-hmm.
right? That like no one alive, even one or two people, even could have known some of these details.
Yeah.
Um, I think that's the other thing that's interesting about the show too is the legacy aspect of like how many people lives are being impacted by decisions two dudes made centuries ago. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, I guess we all live in that reality of
In a
the
way, we do.
repercussions of what some dudes did centuries ago.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I find that
Yeah.
really interesting that they have no idea like why they're even going about this stuff. I think
Yeah.
it would have been cool to see like I always think about like Cindy. Like she's such an
Mm-hmm.
interesting character because she seemed to understand some purpose early on, but she had none, and
Yeah.
she had nothing to grasp onto, and it was nowhere near seeing the big picture.
Yeah.
Um, and so what does she think about all this stuff? By the end, what's her flash sideways like? You know, like, what does she get out of all of this? The
Yeah, she
situation.
was on the plane actually. That's interesting. We never see her again after that.
Mm-hmm.
There's not even really a hint, but um, if you believe that everybody gets a flash sideways, which I think is somewhat questionable, but I think what isn't questionable is that there are more people in the flash sideways than just the group that moves on in the church.
Yeah.
So, Ben, of course, and then like Miss Hawking, like they're very clear on like they're really them and they know it's the afterlife, but they're choosing to stay there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think that only makes sense if it's really them. I mean, effectively, whatever that even means.
Can
But
I throw out a crackpot theory on the end of the show I just made up?
all right, go for it, please. It's never too late.
Get it in while it's hot. I was just thinking, what if I've probably pitched versions of this idea, but I was just thinking because I was jokingly thinking of like Christian at the church and explaining everything to everybody or whatever, and then he opens the big doors in the back, and then all the white light comes through, and everyone goes in. So I was just thinking it'd be funny if like he turns to the camera like at the end of Michael
Oh
Jackson Thriller
no,
video, where Michael
with the
Jackson.
yellow eyes.
So like in Christian does that, and it's like, oh no, he just like stole all their souls or something, and this was some big, So I was just thinking, oh, what if that was like Man in Black, obviously Christian Shepherd, right?
Yeah.
And what if that flash sideways? They did really die, but they were somehow trapped on the island or trapped within. Somehow he used his ability to shapeshift, and he scanned people's minds, right? So maybe he's able to project a reality that they could live in, and so all of that was like fake. It was all a concoction
Mm-hmm.
of Man in Black so that he could like get them all in one place, and then like maybe he needs them to move on to the next reality he's gonna inhabit or something.
Mm-hmm.
And like so that's getting off the island, is that right there, like taking the candidates and going with them to the next place or something.
Right. Right.
And like that could be the story with everything they showed us. All they need is one shot of Christian Shepherd looking
Right.
sinister at the end, and then it's like, oh shit. Okay, we lost our recording there for a second, so I'll just repeat the last thing I was saying, which was yeah, with everything that they showed us on the show, with how it ended, the flash sideways and them going to the church with Christian Shepherd there, ushering them to the after life. That whole thing could have been Man in Black's plan all along to get off the island or to get finally free, and all it was missing from what they showed us was like one single shot of Christian Shepherd looking sinister, like Michael Jackson at the end of the Thriller video. you
Right.
know
Right. Right. The scary yellow eye thing.
hmm
Yeah. 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 That would have been hilarious. I mean, that's a different show. That's like, yeah, Lost the horror show or something.
Yeah,
Like, I like that one. I was into it, but yeah, it would have been different from the way I'm used to thinking of it.
Hmm.
Um, uh, but yeah, I feel like it just raises the general question of like Christian Shepherd at the end. It's like, who is that really? Is that, I mean, he acts like Christian Shepherd, and I think we're emotionally supposed to take it as Christian Shepherd, but does it make any sense that it's Christian Shepherd?
Why isn't Christian Shepherd having his own flash sideways, learning his own lessons somewhere? Why does he get
Exactly.
special privilege to join this flash sideways? Why does he know more than most people about how this all works? Yeah,
Yeah.
that's guess who's in the best position to pretend to be Christian Shepherd? I mean, he's scanned his memories, from before. He knows Jack. So all the dialogue that he has with Jack, Christian Shepherd has with Jack at the end is, Man in Black could say that. He knows
Oh yeah.
exactly what to say.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
and it's funny, this alternate theory. You could also, a plus in its categories that explains why Christian never told Jack he has what it takes.
Right, right. Right,
I
right.
never said because it's not really him, and that was our clue. And Carlton and Damon expected us to get that.
I mean, they even did the coffin thing, which I thought was weird, the empty coffin,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
which is a callback to a Man in Black thing, not to a Christian thing.
Yeah.
So I always thought that that was a weird. It's like I get why poetically, but like in a real sense, like why are you reminding me of when the Man in Black was Christian instead of like something from a flashback when Christian was still alive or something? It's just it's odd.
Yeah. I think Christian Shepherd is wearing a black suit in that scene, so I don't know if that makes him a Man in Black. Technically,
I think the Man in Black Christian could wear any clothes he wanted to. That's my theory, at least.
Well, yeah, I'm making a joke, but
Oh, okay.
I'm saying, there's evidence that he's the Man in Black because he's wearing a black
Oh,
suit.
that's your point that it is the Man in Black. All right, sorry, sorry, sorry. Because there is a thing like he changes clothes at a certain point, and it's kind of weird because he
Yeah.
was just wearing the suit for a while, but then like I remember even reading theories in the old days. There's two Christians. There's the formal one, and there's the informal one. It's like
Oh no, not the Ustedes version.
that is Christian.
The Postochos.
Exactly.
Oh man. Um yeah. Anyway, that's what's weird about the show is you don't know what you watched even after 15 years, and because yeah, it makes some sense that this isn't Christian. Especially considering that, Man in Black was defeated on the island, you know, but a lot of times, this is a horror movie trope, but a lot of times, the villain has that second attack,
Mhm.
uh, and it's almost like the Flash sideways is the like he's not really dead,
Right.
you guys didn't really kill him, and somehow he's here,
Oh, they had
Uh,
the sun thing too. When Sun and Locke are being wheeled into the hospital at the same time,
mhm.
and she looks over and she's like, "It's him! It's him!"
Oh
It's a
yeah.
it's a weird moment that they don't really ever go back to, but it was like kind of a uh, kind of a nod in that direction. It felt like they were supposed to be suggesting that she was like somehow associating Locke with the Man in Black version.
Hmm.
Like unconsciously or because she's like out of it because she's just been shot and she's getting
Yeah.
wheeled to the hospital. She's not like fully like cognizant of what she's saying or why, but so it's some kind of deep subconscious reaction.
Hmm.
Um, anyway, like if they wanted to, it could have fit in. It is worth noting as well that I think it's just for practical reasons, but the Lock Flash Sideways coincides with a Man in Black on Island story.
Oh. Okay. Okay.
You know, that's how they fit it together. I mean, I think it's mainly just because the same actor and because they didn't have Locke on the island because he was dead.
Yeah.
But but there is a little bit of a nod in the direction of like connecting the Man in Black with the Flash sideways, and yeah, there's totally a show where you could end if you want to go with like the dark ending. It's just like the music and the way they play it. It's just hard to believe that that's the intention. You
Oh, really?
know.
Have you ever seen a show where they give you the wrong impression of what the actual meaning is? Can you think of a show where that has happened before?
No, I can't. What do you have in mind?
I don't either. I can't either. So it's exactly what it seems to be, and it can't be anything else.
It's just so like it's again, yeah, it just goes back to what you want to believe, you know,
Because
like
isn't
it
it too
just
convenient? Isn't it a little too convenient by half that Christian Shepherd of all people show up in all places as the Flash Sideways, ready to give them all the answers that they need. Hey guys, stop questioning things. There's no more questions. Like, don't ask any more questions. Thank you, Desmond, for waking them up early, but no more questions. We're all gonna move on. That's what we're supposed to do. I just happen to know exactly what we're supposed to do. Who told
Mhm.
me? You shut up, sir. Um,
Sit down.
yeah, sit down, Charlie. Um, like that's what they should have. They should have had Charlie say, "Guys, where are we?" You know.
Oh God. They could have
Um,
done that. I'm
yeah,
surprised they didn't, to be honest.
yeah,
That's
exactly.
yeah,
Where are we?
that would have
Uh,
made sense.
yeah, so I find that I find it strange that now I want to believe that that was Man in Black and it was his plan. And
As you
yikes!
say that, you're also making me think like two other things occur to me. The other thing is like this is a general thing that we'll have to talk about more when we get to the finale, but you know, I really wanted Locke to like learn some of the stuff that happened after he died because like a lot of stuff happened. And I feel like there should have been an awkward moment when Christian comes in, like, you know, like Locke's like, oh, it's the guy from the donkey wheel, like, you know, like it's the guy from the cabin, you know, like what?
I told your son. You said hello. There he is. Your son
Yeah,
right there.
exactly. Yeah, like I just want some kind of recognition there.
Well, that begs the question about what information is available to you after your death. You know, a question we always ask ourselves. Uh,
Hmm.
and do you I don't think you magically just know things, right? Just because you're dead, right? How would you just magically know things? So I would imagine that yeah, a lot of stuff they're really wrong about, right? And I mean, I really wish they would have been able to take the time to unpack some of those. Well, like Locke should have been like, "What? Man in Black impersonated me?" Like of
Yeah,
all
the smoke
people, like,
monster, like
yeah,
what?
yeah. Well, he didn't do any whittling, did he?
He did what?
Oh no, that's my trademark. Did he smile with an orange in his mouth? Okay, no, he didn't. Okay, good. Okay, I still have got that. Yeah, I that's well. Now we're just in the part of the podcast where I'm just upset, where there's so many things
Hmm.
that I don't get that I'm just like I don't know.
Unfulfilled
Yeah, I do
things
agree
that
that the big missed opportunity is just a bit of that record. Well, I know we talked a lot about that too, but it's that weird thing where it just seems to be a truism about life and metaphysics that after you're dead, you just don't care that much about figuring out the mysteries of life, which is ironic
right,
because when these people were alive, they didn't care that much about the mystery.
right, right,
So I guess why
right.
would anything change?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But that wasn't true of Locke, and I think that's one of the reasons why I wanted Locke to find out or to want to find out. You know, like because he died thinking he failed,
Well, that's what I
and
was gonna say earlier when you said you know, the stuff that happened to the characters was important. You were sure of that. I'm like, Locke? I don't know. Like he went through a lot of stuff and ended it, and the last thing he was thought was like, I don't understand. So
Yeah, I know. I
he was
know.
almost
Yeah,
against the
Locke
Lord.
doesn't fit in that general category. And he greets Jack when he comes in and they're like all smiles and it's like the last thing that happened between you two is Jack was like, "You're just a crazy old man and raving about nonsense." And then Locke goes to kill himself. Like it's just like how are they just like chilled about that? Like without talking it through, you know?
Death.
Like it makes no sense to me. Like just because like Jack did a fake afterlife surgery, like I don't understand. Like
Yeah. Well, that goes back to why I thought Jack, and I think he does say, doesn't Jack tell Man in Black Lock something when he's fighting about
yes,
my friend John or something?
yeah, yeah. There, in the finale, there's some lines where he's like, "You're not Locke," and you disrespect him by wearing his face, and
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. So you know that's I think it's supposed to be Jack's end of reconciling their relationship, but the problem is Locke
yes.
doesn't get a version.
It's the Locke side. I accept that Jack would greet Locke, but I don't accept that Locke is just like, "Hey, Jack, good to see you again." It's just like, what?
Mm-hmm. Well, and it doesn't help that like Locke failed on his last big mission to bring everyone back to the island. I mean, he failed sort of directly, and he succeeded indirectly because they did
Mm-hmm.
going.
Right.
Because he died, I guess he needed to die.
Or did he? But yeah.
He didn't. Why did they need the shoes? Oh, jeez,
Oh boy, no. Oh, the shoes.
shoes.
God, the shoes. So ridiculous. I can't believe they did that. I don't boy, what a mess. Um
That would have been
yeah.
great if, like, in the church at the end, Jack looks down at Christian's shoes and goes, "Wait a minute, my dad wears a size 11, not a size 12. Who are you, imposter?" Like, that would have been interesting, right? If like the shoes that he had to specially get back on 316 to get back to the island, like that's a big, you know, mile marker for the show. Like that would have been so
Yep.
crazy. That's the show I would have written that no one wants to see. Is where like
Right.
the shoe detailed mattered at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Like 4 seasons
Yeah.
later, he's like, "Those aren't the right shoes," and then he's like,
Yeah.
yeah, and then Christian Shepherd's like, "Mwahahaha! You found me, but it's too late, Jack. I've captured you in my lair. This isn't a church. This is the evil afterlife. And once you walk through those doors, your souls will be mine." Don't you want to watch that? I mean,
Oh my
I know
god.
it's a cartoon, a kids' cartoon show, but like they were right there. They did half the work. I just want to finish it for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. In a way, like it makes more sense than what they did. So it has that going for it.
Yeah. I think that is the special quality of the show where things are more interesting when it makes less sense, which shouldn't be true. But
Mm-hmm.
but then you get in that, well, is it still satisfying? Because I didn't understand it, and now it's not going to play out like I expected to, and then they're just going to burn it down or move on,
Right.
and without telling me what happened. So, but speaking of this episode we're about to cover, I don't remember
Mm-hmm.
much from it except for the really horrible ritual, and
Ah,
like
yes.
information from Jacob about what's happening, being,
Yep.
you know, one of the few times anyone has like sat down to explain anything.
Campfire chat. Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, I remember that, but I don't remember much else from it because I haven't seen it in 10 years.
Oh my god. Wow. Well, you're in for a treat because there's definitely some infamous moments.
Yeah, I guess I should expect some more deaths. I don't know. I forgot if there's any big deaths in this episode.
Wow, I don't want to spoil it for you.
What did they die for? All right, you wanna jump into the podcast? I mean, jump into
Let's
the episode.
let's do it. I'm ready.
All right, let's do it.
All right, everybody, get your streamers ready to stream with us the episode of Lost called What They Died For 616. Let's do this. What do you say?
Let's do it.
All right. Starting the episode in 5, 4, 3, 2, go.
All right. Previously on Lost.
Previously on Lost. Dude, where'd that come from? God. It's a great question. This fucking bomb. Ugh.
Saeed, I can't believe that's the last time we see Saeed. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, Saeed's story in season 6 is so mangled. Speaking of mangled, whatever's holding Sun there, I never really understood.
file cabinet? I don't know.
Yeah, like why is there a file cabinet? I need files.
Underwater files.
Oh boy.
Another eye. How many eyes do you have, Jack?
Hopefully not more than 2. This is weird. I'm not sure that I get this.
I get it.
Okay.
You know.
Do tell. Oh, okay. Don't tell then.
There's something with unconsciousness that gets you connected to the previous life. And, so like you said earlier with Sun, like kind of being in and out of it, and she was misunderstanding who Locke was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, and we know that they have a theme on the show about consciousness traveling, right? Through
Right.
time. So I don't know. I think that's what it is. Since he was sleeping, he was able to pick up an injury that he has from the past. Now the harder question is why? How are the time offsets working? Right? Why did he get that injury from that time period versus a year later, 2 years later, or whatever? So yeah, why now? Besides, I guess we're getting to the end.
That's true. Maybe that's supposed to be the reason, but it's still just so, I don't know. It just seems so arbitrary.
It's like reality, or the truth of the reality is creeping in.
Yeah, no, that's definitely what it is. Oh, this is weird too.
Weird.
It's like I remember on the podcast talking about this, that it's like Desmond like steps in to like take care of the coffin, which is really strange. It's like he calls Jack and pretends to be from Oceanic, saying that they have found the coffin. And it's like, how does he even know that?
We said the same thing at the same time. Yeah, how does he know that's a problem Jack has?
Yeah, it's so confusing. Like even if he knew it was a problem, like they shouldn't be telling him that. Like, how did he find out?
Yeah, that really feels like the entire Flash Sideways is just a bunch of people Truman showing them, like
yeah,
behind the scenes operating. It's like Cabin in the Woods, where it's like
exactly
normal pedestrian people operating in a fantastical world.
Yeah.
But I'm actually surprised that they revealed it was Desmond that early. So they clearly hold that.
Yeah, so on the podcast, like this is the episode where I'm like, okay, Desmond is like doing something really crazy here, and so like something really crazy is going to happen in the Flash Sideways. That was as far as I was willing to go.
I feel like I remember that.
It was hard to know what. We just have to kill him for revenge, not because like the world's gonna end or something. I love that. It's
Well,
like
hopefully
we
that's what Jacob's gonna impart later, but he won't.
mm-hmm. It's just like they don't even need that reason to kill him, so then
I,
it just really becomes irrelevant.
I think that's the thing is char- characters who aren't superheroes and who aren't action heroes who have a responsibility to save the world. I think that's just so bigger than normal, and I think they want to keep the emotional tension and like what the reasons they're doing all these things closer to them, and more about protecting the immediate characters here and not this fanciful or bigger concept of the whole world.
Right.
It seems to be really hard set on that of like never letting them say we're doing this to save the whole world.
Right.
Like that idea comes up early, but it's not a thing people are like we got to go back to the island to save the world.
Right. Right. We're doing it for our friends. We're doing it for ourselves.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Saeed said the thing about Desmond. So, yeah, that's something that is
So they
weird.
just believe him.
Yeah. Yeah, they just believe
Or
him.
Saeed, he said that. Now Saeed was a weird fucker the last time we saw him, guys. But now we're just gonna listen to
We're just
him.
going to let that go.
Oh no.
I know. I know.
Oh,
I
this is a
know.
flashback. Oh no. Oh, this wasn't a flash. Oh god. They really got us with that one. Damn.
Yep. I think this is
He was already
crazy.
in, yeah, okay.
Yeah, he's already done it once.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Let me punch you in the face.
The thing about pain and like consciousness that connects the two worlds.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, they clearly established that. That's true.
Mhm.
I think
Now,
it's crazy.
did he know Ben just got a flash, and that's why he
Right. It
stopped?
seemed like he did. Or if he didn't know he got a flash, it seemed like he was trying to make him have a flash.
Yeah, but it's like, how would he know if he had a flash? He's just certain that that was enough pain.
Yeah. I don't know. This is crazy too. This group, it was like 5 episodes ago when they left.
I lived in that house 30 years ago, otherwise known as last week. Sorry, what did you say?
This group left like 5 episodes ago to
Okay,
to go get the explosives to blow up the plane.
time ago.
Secret room.
Or someone told you you could summon the smoke monster?
Oh boy. Yep, we're gonna get those lines soon.
Jeez. There was a purge here.
Yeah, I wish he was remembering that.
That's probably the same thing last time. Same joke.
I get wonky around dead stuff. Oh boy.
Forced into his cabin. Does Ben not remember?
Who?
Oh, what you say? Oh, he doesn't even know where. Oh, that's right. He
Yeah,
was
they
on
just
the
left
way.
her body there. So it's like, you buried her here?
And he didn't
By
even.
the
Ben never questioned it. That should have been the first thing he did when he came back to the island to quote unquote get judged. He should have been like, "My
mm-hmm.
bury my daughter."
Totally agree. Totally agree. Yeah, this is just a toss-up thing. And it's like, shouldn't there at least be a grave marker or like some others
Yes,
ritual? Or it's just like, what?
but
Why is it just like next to the fence?
people have seen it before, and that's a retcon, right? So he has to be like, it was always here, but in a way no one would have ever seen.
Right. Right. Oh boy.
That's a line that I'm surprised they gave us.
Me too. Me too. Even though it raises more questions than it answers, honestly. Like, who told you that, for example?
Yeah.
Like, I love that passive phrasing, I was told.
Mhm.
Like, like, like that's it feels like a dodge. No, but do tell.
Well, it would have been Man in Black, and it would have
It should
been
have been.
and it would have been in the form of someone that he knew who died.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I would imagine.
But
Yeah.
it's just oh yeah, I remember Zoe's just like looking for a bowl or something. It's like really weird.
Shoot him.
Well, you're already in.
He's not a vampire. Cross that off the list. I'm thirsty.
He's gonna drink a okay.
How does his plumbing still work? That water cannot be fresh.
Yeah. Oh man, we had a long discussion about like take out the equipment and sink it, like what that meant. It's like the simplest sentence could just turn into a whole thing. You're doing what? Like, why would you want to do that? I'm doing that. So they revealed that Widmore really did plant the explosives on the plane.
But you okay, listen, technicality, you hadn't seen him ever before.
Wait, hadn't seen what before?
Jacob.
Oh, right.
I mean, the majority of his life
When
he
he
had
was the
not seen.
leader of the others, he didn't see Jacob.
I feel like he just had a loophole there where he made it seem like he's been in regular
Yeah,
contact.
right. Totally agree.
But see, that's the whole thing. Yeah. Jacob told Alana everything she needed to do too, and it didn't work out so well. So
Yeah, it's not going to work out that well for Widmore either. His plans are, yeah, pretty unreliable, I'm going to say.
anything about Alana, like before, then we could piece together if maybe there's a reason she got that ending.
Mm-hmm.
Because what bad ending is not surprising.
Right, that's true.
He beat me. I saw him beating me in a different life.
That's what happened.
No matter what life I go to, he's beating. My takeaway.
Uh-oh.
Because his fists were hurting me. Does my silence make you think it does? Hmm. Did they? So they did they do a switch with Miles where like I keep saying Miles. Wow, even all after all this time, Dan. Yikes! That's just what my brain does with that name. Because he was a scientist, and then in the Flash Sideways, he was a musician, right?
Right.
And here, Chang was a scientist, and in here he's a musician. Oh, they did the same thing. Was that right?
No, he's not a musician. He's like a museum director.
Oh, he's a museum director. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a museum benefit.
Yikes. The other thing I don't like about this is Desmond. I don't like how smug he is, and I don't like how he's like the inverse of being claimed.
Right, right.
Like, Just is like all 100% in, but like I just don't like how it's coming off. I don't like, yeah, I don't, that's, and yeah, I don't know. It's a weird thing because they're trying to make him really important and integral to everything.
Yeah.
We don't get the benefit of seeing this play out organically.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that's one of the main problems I have with how the Flash Shadows plays out in general is like the fact that it seems to be predicated on this like random thing that happened with Widmore.
Who's he talking about?
So Sawyer was blaming himself for setting off the bomb
Ah,
on the sub and like the people dying, and then Jack saying no, the Man in Black did it, basically.
okay, this makes no sense.
Yeah, so we had a long discussion about Ghost Kid Jacob.
What
Like why is he appearing as a kid? Like it's weird.
did we come to any conclusion?
No, of course we didn't. Because it doesn't make sense.
How can you
Okay,
save
I'll
my
give it
pocket?
to you if you explain what the point of Alana was.
Yeah, right.
Like, don't talk about Alana if you're not going to say anything helpful.
Yeah, imagine if that kid was like my daughter Alana. We're like, what?
Oh, God. Yikes.
See, this is what I hate because now we don't know if that ash was integral to Jacob looking like this now.
Yeah, I know. We talked about it because it's like, oh, God. It's a hard thing to relitigate, but like, he appears as adult Jacob to Hurley at the beginning of the season. Then we see kid Jacob with the Man in Black. Don't tell me what I can't do. Sawyer sees him too. And then we see adult Jacob with Hurley and Jack again with the lighthouse. And then we see kid Jacob again a couple of times with the Man in Black and other characters seeing him. And then now here they bring it back to Hurley, but it's kid Jacob, but he wants the ashes and then he becomes adult Jacob again. Anyway, on the podcast, I have the theory that there were actually two of them that were connected somehow.
Oh man, yeah. Well, one could be time traveling. I think yeah, that would make some sort of sense. One is
Yeah,
from
something
another,
like that.
but clearly there was only one there, right? The little one, the
Turned
kid
into
took
the
the
big one.
ashes, and put the ashes on the fire, and now he was big.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like, could he just do that anytime or was it the ashes? I have no idea. It's not
I think it's
clear.
the ashes because he said once this burns out, I'm gone. So
He does say that. Yeah,
I feel like
undeniable.
what he's doing in a general way is making himself visible to everybody as an
Yeah.
adult Jacob for a period of time.
Yeah. It's just weird that he could be adult Jacob Ghost appearing to Hurley, but he could be kid Jacob Ghost appearing to everyone, but to be adult Jacob Ghost appearing to everyone, he needs the ashes. Like that just seems so arbitrary. Like what?
Mhm.
Why is that? Why is
Maybe
that a
kid
thing?
Jacob is low power Jacob. Maybe he can't interact with things or some. Well, he took the ashes. Uh,
Yeah.
all right, we'll come back to that. We'll come back to it. Something's happening here.
Two Jacob Ghosts. Yeah, so Richard is ridiculous in the scene. He's like, oh, all he wants is for me to go with him. And it's just like, oh boy, you're really behind the times here. And this is what he gets.
So wait, what happened?
Richard's
Man,
like, like they see Locke show up, and they're like, okay, Widmore, you hide in here. And Miles is like, I'm gonna run. And Richard and Ben are like, no, I'll go out and talk to him, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And Richard's like, oh, he just wants me to come with him. And then the smoke monster just knocks him out. And yeah, now he's here.
Why would he think that?
Because like at the beginning of the season, he's like he takes Richard and puts him in a bag, and he's like, I want the same thing I always wanted, Richard, for you to come with me. And he's talking about leaving the
Oh,
island. So I think that's where he gets it from. But it's just he just hasn't he doesn't know what's happened since then and how that was a manipulation.
but does he want it all to himself anymore?
I think that's a great question. This Ben stuff at the end is weird. That look.
Yeah. Do I know? Do I know? I brought him here for you, buddy. Twice in 2 lifetimes. Look who
You
looks like
look like
Napoleon.
Napoleon.
Yeah,
Wait, did Napoleon only have one hand?
I think
I don't know my history that well, but
she's referencing a painting where he's standing like that.
okay, okay.
I think. I don't know history. I mean it literally. Yeah, this was weird. Rousseau here. What is this?
Yeah, this is weird. This is also part of where I believe like these people, none of whom are going to be in the church are really there.
I see. So the real Rousseau is in a flash sideways doing some other bullshit, and this is his version of a Rousseau.
There's a fine line, but
Yeah.
kind of.
Wow, I've known her for 1 semester.
I think that's literally true.
Yeah, I was trying to make a joke, and I was like, wait, I think it probably hasn't really been that long.
Yeah, it's like bleeding over, sort of. It's weird.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
But
cooked onions
Harvey
usually make you
McKillop,
cry.
yeah, exactly. Everybody knows. Onions cooked hours ago make you cry. So. Like literally, please, I don't want to stand behind in front of you.
Yeah, seriously.
His lady
His
friend.
lady friend?
Yeah, that's great. Hmm.
You don't have to see this.
Ha!
Ew.
I think he wants to hear the conversation.
Yeah, exactly. Just like, I want to witness the carnage.
So I mean, Widmore, did he really trust Ben not to give him up immediately?
He really shouldn't have, but I don't know. I mean, they
I mean, I
didn't.
guess he didn't have any choice, but
Yeah.
yikes!
Yeah.
Big and powerful Widmore hide in the closet.
Just standing there like a rat.
Like a rat! Dead.
So dead. Well, she didn't have to listen, but anyway.
Which is what exactly?
And the entire world will
He said
end.
and.
And then everyone else in the world.
Okay, but here's what's weird though. Yeah, see, he doesn't want to kill her because he's evil.
Yep,
He's using it as leverage,
exactly. I
which is a
know.
different ball game.
A very different ball game. Yeah. And then Widmore's big speech about like every daughter in the world will die if he gets off
Yeah,
this island. It's like this calls into question if he even believes that.
yeah.
Because he just like caves here with a threat to Penny specifically. Where it's like if it doesn't matter,
Mm.
what you do if he gets off, like the whole world's over, like everybody dies.
Whisper to me.
Then who cares? Yeah, this is oh boy. Like, why are you cutting deals?
Damn, Ben. That's why Ben wanted to be here.
Absolutely. Why'd you go and do that?
That's another reason why the Alex thing came up, so he can remember he
Yep,
had a daughter.
exactly. Yeah.
But but are you gonna kill his daughter or not? Because that's what Ben cared about.
He's never gonna talk about it again, so who knows? Who knows? Would he have killed Penny? We'll never know. Let alone anyone else.
It's just weird that Whitmore got to save his daughter.
Yeah, or did he? I guess he did, in the sense that he's not gonna kill Penny because he won't get off, but
Well, but he said he told me what I needed, so he fulfilled his bargain. I mean,
that's true. Yeah. Yeah, assuming he would keep his word and the world isn't going to end, blah blah blah, then yeah, I guess it's a deal.
so somehow this makes him visible, everybody, and he's an asshole.
See that asshole over there?
More like carved. I can't answer that. There are no whys here. This is what they died for.
You want to know that, but what makes you think I can tell you that?
Yep. Oh, that's how you know. I'll just tell you that.
What I think they died for, let's say.
Mm-hmm. Well, you'll die too.
Which is very little.
Mm-hmm.
Lost.
Wow, they cut to Hurley first.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, they definitely foreshadow the Hurley thing if you know to look for it.
Nice.
There's
Yeah,
another
he
cut to
looks too.
Hurley.
Yeah. Hi, I'm here to let go.
That's not far from what's gonna happen.
Fake picture. That's how genetics works. I'm a doctor. I know. third time. And you know what happens when you get a group of coincidences together?
You get meaning.
You get meaning. If you choose to.
Exactly.
I'm a man of science, you see. The beginning. How about how you brought us to the island?
Oh, he's not going to say that.
Oh no. What a bad way to start. Why do you say that? And why'd you ask about the mistake and not the dying part?
Yep. I know. They're not going to ask the hard questions because they're not going to answer them.
I hate conversations like this, where he gets to ignore the beginning of what Sawyer said because he
Yeah.
found one thing to harp on,
Yep. Yep.
and it seems
Like
to prove the point. Yeah,
you're wrong about this one thing, and therefore
your
that
entire line of
justifies.
questioning is invalid. Yeah.
Yeah. It was like, oh yes, I'm so glad someone
Yeah.
said
Hey,
that.
hey, were you more alone when you got brought to the island? Yes. And mothers aren't allowed to protect things.
Actually, they are. He doesn't even care. It's weird.
It's just a line. It's just Kate. It's just chalk, girl.
It's just chalk. It didn't really mean anything. It's like he just assumed, oh, well, she probably won't want to do it.
She's
Like,
busy.
that was it.
So why did he say that, Jacob? But no, your mama said you got to protect it from the men coming here. I know what your mama said.
I know, but Mama was talking about, yeah.
Mama never said you had to protect it from your own brother.
It's like you have to protect from him right now, but in general,
Although he doesn't want it right now. He's not after the light.
He sort of is. I mean, only incidentally.
That was the alternate title of this show. Only incidentally. You had a choice.
Well, that's a shitty choice then.
But see, he says badly, but is that the badly where everybody dies, or is that a different thing?
I assumed it is, but yeah, I don't know.
Well, this is easy, Jack. Of course you do it. This is why he's here.
Is that a question?
Is this Jeopardy, Jacob?
This is what I'm supposed to do?
What is the thing I'm supposed to do? For a fake ritual.
Yeah, we had a whole thing about the ritual. You were like, I don't believe this incantation matters. it wasn't even wine. Like, it's like,
Yeah.
whatever.
What do you say?
Thought that guy had a God complex before. There's the hurry line right there. I'm just glad it's not me.
Mm-hmm. Jack looked. Why wasn't he going there before? Now, or you mean after the ritual? Now, like shortly after I make.
Yeah, shortly after the ritual is what it should mean.
I hate words. They're so imprecise.
Soon is what he should have said, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's a whole thing about this cup. There was actually a deleted scene where Jack gets the cup.
Well, he's not gonna get the cup.
No, just like why he has a cup in this scene.
Oh,
they explained it.
Gotcha.
Because he wasn't just carrying around a cup before. Couple days.
Yeah. Weekend, long shift.
Maybe it's like a day and a half. It's pretty quick. Because it's night right now. And it ends during the day. So yeah, I think it's actually like less than a day.
Mm-hmm. Only because he dies.
Well, yeah, exactly. So that's as long as he can.
Yeah.
Can't do it when you're dead. Now you're like me.
So does Jacob know this is bullshit? Or is he convinced that it is true? That this mattered and this is meaningful and it's for real?
I feel like he's supposed to believe it. But I really don't know.
He knows he's doing a different ritual. He thinks he has the power to choose the components of the ritual.
I guess so, yeah. I mean, it's like vaguely similar.
Freckles. I'm a cop, not a robber. What do cops seem like?
Not like Sawyer's.
Yeah, well. What?
What?
I'm sorry, what's your face? What happens if we break our promise? But do you really want to get out of there knowing you could get in more trouble? I mean, neither of you have any place to go. So what are you talking about? This is why you're in jail in the first place, is your short-term thinking. And then this bitch shows up.
Mm-hmm.
So how does Desmond know to go find Ana Lucia, the cop, to hire her to do this part of the job where she picks them up? How does he intuitive? Did he even meet her on the island ever? Like, how does he even know?
No, we talked about that. He never even knew Ana Lucia. He could have heard about her from someone else, but no.
I've heard you're a killer, Ana Lucia.
They never spoke because he leaves before the tail section gets there, and she's dead before he comes back.
Yeah. Okay. That's a lot of money for this job you just did. That's a lot of money for that. It's more than the going rate, let's just say. Yeah, this is the other thing I don't like is it's too planned out. When did he have time to plan all this? And how is he
Yeah.
so in touch with all of the things that are happening here?
Yeah, it's like he got the manifest and then he made this elaborate plan. Like he hooked up with Hurley and then Hurley's like the bankroll and
Yeah,
yeah,
it's like a heist film. That's what it feels like.
it
Yeah.
is. Yeah.
No, you don't. Okay, I'll buy that. Well.
Oh well.
What if he killed him and then drug the body up and then buried him?
Or he could have pulled him out and then
They killed
shot
him, yeah.
him.
Mhm. Oh, jeez. So Desmond is the key to him not leaving and also the key to him destroying the island.
Yeah.
Sounds like to
No,
me, if I was to put two and two together, he's not going to leave because the island's going to be destroyed.
I, I, so yeah. Um I have a lot of questions about that. Um okay. Oh my god, I don't even know where to start. So one thing I just want to say is like it's kind of weird. It's like he intuits what Desmond could do. You
hmm
know, what we see in the finale with what Desmond does, it does seem like the island is being destroyed.
hmm
Um, compared to like the real world stuff that everybody talks about, like we don't see anything about that, but we do see like parts of the island crumbling off and everything shaking, and like it actually
Yeah.
seems like something significant is happening to the island. And when he has his final battle with Jack, he's standing on the edge of a cliff looking at the boat. So I think his plan was to destroy the island and then sail away on the boat.
Yeah. The problem is, though, many problems here. What I don't understand, so it's like all of a sudden, right now, the light cave becomes important to his plans. He
Yeah,
never before cared about it.
indeed.
Um, Even though, in some sense, he came out of it, so he should kind of know. Actually, Mother told didn't. Yeah, Mother told them both what was down there, right? Or did she just
Yeah,
tell David?
yeah. She told both of them.
He
Yeah,
told both of them because he knows about the concept of the light cave.
he
You
does.
know
Yeah,
more about the inner workings of the island and the light and the water than like anybody, right? He's got
indeed.
that's why he's special, right? So
Yep.
when he says I'm going to destroy the island, like yeah, you're right. He intuits how he could use Desmond to do that, and we buy that because we know how he understands the island. But what's weird is that he didn't ever want to destroy the island before.
Right.
So the biggest thing we know about Man in Black that we're told in his mythology is that he wants to leave the island, and when he does, the entire world will be destroyed. Presumably, you would think the island as well.
Right.
So it's weird that now the everything hinges on Desmond, who is the failsafe to stop him from leaving, which would mean the island is both not destroyed and Man in Black is around, or at least he's not left. So maybe he's dead, but he's not left the island, right? But also, there's a
Right.
way where Desmond can destroy the island, but not destroy the entire world.
Right.
Because if you destroy the entire world, then what's the point?
Where do you have to go? Yeah.
Yeah, so that's crazy. That's probably the most lost plot point. I think that's a doozy. I mean, in one quick few sentences, they set up the two most diametrically opposed plot points around one character in the island and what that character can. That's insane. And it's built on top of all of the most important parts of Man in Black and the whole concept of the island, the concept of the button and the Swan Station, all that stuff. All of that is hinging on this, on Desmond. And like Ms. Hawking said, President Button was the most important thing he's ever going to do. Well, hey, did you hear about this? Did you hear about
yeah, we totally talked about that. Yeah.
I mean, because like, damn, this seems like it's way more important. And my thing is like, I have a lot of things. Why didn't he just? I guess we'd have to say, and this is what we do most of the podcast is like do the work for them of making.
Oh yeah. We have to. They're not going to do it.
Yeah, we want to sleep at night, so we have to. It seems like they're making the case that Man in Black didn't want to destroy the island before this moment because he had no way to, or at least hadn't thought of using Desmond in this way.
Yeah.
Maybe he didn't know Desmond. Whatever he understands Jacob saying he's a failsafe to mean, he understands Desmond has some quality now that he either didn't know before that Desmond had, or he didn't care about it before because he didn't want to actually destroy the island. Even though he really wants everyone on the island dead, regardless of who they are. But he doesn't really care if the island proper is still around. Right. That doesn't matter. He just wants to leave the island. Now, a normal story would have been he has to destroy the island to leave. He's got to get to the Light Cave to leave. The Light Cave is the key to him leaving. So that would have always been his plan. His loophole would have been, how do I get to the Light Cave? Right. Like, I gotta get killed, I gotta do all this stuff with killing the Protector and killing the candidates just so I can get back to the Light Cave so I can finally get the power to leave. Like, that's a normal story. That's not the story we've had up until this moment. And now he's like, oh, there's a Desmond around and he's a failsafe? Aha! I don't just want him dead so that my normal plan will go unimpeded. I've got a new plan now.
Yeah.
This show is insane.
Yeah, so I just want to pile on that with a few other things. So you kind of were zeroing in on the fact that Jacob in his fireside chat basically says, you have to protect the light from the Man in Black. And you correctly brought up the fact that it doesn't seem like he's trying to do anything with the light. And it's 100% true that this entire season, he hasn't tried to do anything with the light ever.
Yep. Until
yeah, but it's weird that after that, we get this scene where it's like, oh, no, I totally want to destroy the island. But it's like, did Jacob know he was just suddenly going to change course?
Or did he know that Saeed wasn't going to or didn't kill Desmond, and therefore Desmond would be in play, and therefore Man in Black would hear about Desmond being in play, and therefore Man in Black would want to get to the Light Cave? Like, is he playing 4D chess like that?
Well, and yeah, the other thing I was going to bring up, which is related, isn't it weird that Jacob doesn't even mention Desmond ever in that entire discussion? He never says a word about Desmond. And they actually bring that up in the final episode. Like, Jacob didn't say anything about Desmond. It's weird because he's so pivotal. It seems like it's true that Widmore talked to Jacob and that Jacob sent Desmond there, but why wouldn't he tell Jack that? Like, why wouldn't he tell the candidates that? Isn't that important? Like, he just wants them to figure it out. Like,
I wish I was good at game theory because I feel like there's a concept here where almost like you want to make the opposition think a piece that you have is important. So you put rumors out there that that's your most important piece, but when in reality it's just a distraction. It's
mm-hmm,
almost like what's happening with Jacob, which is like,
right.
well, why didn't he say he told so wait, what's the chain of events? He told oh, he told Widmore that
He
Desmond
told
was
Widmore. Yeah.
which, okay, which already is like not a guy that was really on Jacob's side, so sort of the bad guy team. He told that story to, but he did want, I think, Desmond to come to the island. Okay, so he did get that from Widmore.
Probably.
Yeah,
Assuming Widmore's telling the truth. Yeah.
yeah. So he did say, okay, Widmore coming to the island, bring Desmond. Okay. Uh, yeah, I'm just trying to figure out at what point does Jacob? Who else did he say that Desmond was important to? Because it's like a game of telephone. So Widmore, so Jacob told Widmore, then Widmore told
Man in
Ben.
Black.
Oh
Yeah.
man,
And
yeah, yeah.
basically,
Exactly.
and then, yeah, Man in Black tells Ben. But so actually, as I read the line, like, it gets a little bit even more convoluted because what he actually says is that Desmond was Jacob's last resort in case he managed to kill all his candidates.
Mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm,
that suggests that Jacob's plan, and I guess this fits in with what we were talking about earlier in terms of Jacob's plans like not working correctly. It
mm-hmm.
sounds like maybe the reason he didn't tell the candidates about Jacob or about Desmond was because he didn't actually intend for them to use Desmond, even though they do, and it works.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because he viewed Desmond as a resort if they were all killed, but they weren't. So he didn't think he needed Desmond. I don't know what he intended for them to do.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's a weird plan because it's like, well, why not keep Desmond in a safer place then?
mhm.
Or why not tell Widmore, like, make sure no matter what you do, you keep Desmond in a safe place. He's the failsafe.
Yeah, yeah.
And Widmore just was like torturing the dude.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's a weird series of plans. God, man, I don't understand how they write stories. It's
We never get a correctly executed plan, like,
no,
ever.
no.
It's like every time they do something, and there's a thing in Harry Potter about this, like, when has one of our plans ever worked? Like, it's like, I know that's a thing that
Hmm.
happens in stories in general,
Hmm.
but I feel like Lost just pushes that to another level where it's like there's like failed plans within failed plans. Like,
Yeah,
it's hard to even untangle like what the plan was
yeah,
because
yeah.
you only see the broken version of it.
Hmm.
And that it feels like that's what we get this whole time. So I'm trying to understand, and I guess it doesn't. I still can't even make sense of it. It's like, what was Desmond supposed to do if, like, say all the candidates are dead, right? Now what does Desmond do? Like, he pulls the cork out, and then the island is destroyed, and
And then
therefore the man of
how is he supposed to know that? How is he supposed to know to do that? Who's supposed to tell
right.
him
It Widmore is supposed to tell him, maybe.
So why
It's
would he have already told him by now? Because like Widmore can die at any moment.
He should have. He should have. So he said, I remember earlier in the season, he when he like puts Desmond in the shack and like sends him to the afterlife for a little while. He says, like, I'm gonna do this test, and then if it works, I'm gonna ask you to make a sacrifice. So I feel like, and Desmond gets kidnapped by Saeed shortly after the test.
Mhm,
So like we
mhm.
never get the follow up. But I guess I would conclude from that the what would have happened if Saeed hadn't shown up is Widmore would have told Desmond, okay, here's what you're gonna have to do.
Gotcha.
You
That makes
know?
sense, and that's nice and straightforward. You go and pull the plug, he loses his power,
Yeah.
he either dies or he's at least able to be killed
Yeah.
while the plug is unpulled. But doesn't
Yeah.
pulling
So
the plug also destroy the island?
well, that's the problem, right? So I guess he would have to plug it in too, and I guess what ends up happening is that Desmond doesn't plug the thing back in because Jack wants to do it.
Mhm.
But like, yeah, maybe what should have happened is Widmore takes Desmond to the light. He pulls the plug. Widmore's team kills Man in Black, and then Desmond puts the plug back in to avoid the island being destroyed. Because I feel
Mhm.
like if Jacob's plan is destroy the island, that's ridiculous.
It can't be because he's doing candidates here, right? I mean, that's his. Oh, you're saying okay? Definitely not his first plan.
Jacob's failsafe plan
His
is what I
fail-safe
mean.
plan also should not be that. Yeah.
Yeah, because like he's supposed to be
No,
protecting the island.
and that's what the dialogue is. The dialogue is it's his fail-safe to keep him from leaving, not just to like
Yeah,
destroy everything. So I think that
exactly.
yeah, I think that makes sense.
I've never put that together.
What?
Like just that sequence of event, like that never made sense to me. It's like that makes more sense to me than probably any
Honestly, that's
part
the
of this
most
whole thing.
straightforward thing that we've ever heard. Like, "Oh, Desmond, the plan is if all the candidates get killed, you go pull the cork, and then he can be killed, and then gives you." And that's what I was gonna say is Jacob is he at least he maybe either knows Desmond can pull the cork because he turned the failsafe key at the Swan and survived, or that's the reason he can pull the cork because he got zapped with fail-safe electromagnetic energy before, or something like that. So there's some reason that Jacob thinks Desmond is the right person for that job. Okay, but what's funny is we get another callback to when Man in Black and the guys of Christian Shepherd told Locke to move the island, and then Ben ended up doing it. So you
Right.
get to like, there's this weird thing where when one dude goes to the bows of the island to like fiddle with things, some other dude goes and does it instead, and then the plan goes potentially awry, but we don't really
Right.
know because it was the wrong dude fiddling with things.
Right. Right.
Um, so it's weird how they played that card again.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm just trying to think through what the non-fail safe plan is. I think that's the part I don't
I think the
understand.
non-fail safe plan is the candidates survive, and Man in Black just stays on the island, and I guess he just keeps trying to kill them. But I guess the problem in really understanding the normal plan, plan A deeper is we don't even understand why he was unable to kill Man in Black. I'm sorry, why Man in Black was unable to kill Jacob to begin with, right? Because you'd have to wonder, well, what's the status quo if Plan A works out, right? The candidate, Jacob is dead, right? He christens Jack as the new protector of the island, and let's just say that's it. Man in Black doesn't go after anybody or whatever. He still wants to leave, but no like climax of the show, right? So the candidates still survive. Jack's still around, and the other people are still around. And then Man in Black just can't leave because there's a protector. Okay, now if he wants to leave, he's got to kill all the candidates. And then to my point, like, is he now still barred from killing Jack because Jack is the protector?
Right.
Does he
Not
need a new
clear.
loophole? And that's the part that's not clear. Because if not, then it's just like, hey, I can kill anybody anytime. It was
Yeah.
just Jacob that was a special case, and you're not Jacob, so I can kill whoever's the new protector. Therefore, it seems like you always need a failsafe. You will always eventually need it because he will never stop trying to kill people to get off the island. And unless there is a unique you can't kill the protector role, which I don't think there is, because I mean, that's the thing. Jacob could have told Jack, hey, by the way, he can't kill you, buddy. Like
Right.
that would have really, deflated the stakes, obviously.
Indeed.
But I also don't think it's true because I think it's a fucking thing Mother made up, and I don't think it was real. I think she just said that for control. And to keep them in an equilibrium where there will always be one of them, you know. But but even that part's messy, right? Like the one who she wants to protect the island is the bad one.
Right,
He's the
right.
one who's special. The good one's
Of
not even
course.
special, but he's the one who gets the special privilege. It's like the way their writing is so consistently messy, and messy is not really the right word, but just the tone and the voice and the characteristics like are really consistent. The way, you know, they paint their painting on the show is really consistent, and it's really weird the entire time. And I think we'll spend another 15 years trying to figure it out.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Yeah, just to add to your point, and really to kind of ruin things a little bit. So Jacob does say, so there's this little exchange where Jacob says, you know, you have to protect the light from him. We talked about that already. And then he says, you must do what I couldn't, what I wasn't able to do. And then Jack says, you want us to kill him? Is that even possible? And Jacob says, I hope so, because he's certainly going to try to kill you. So I take it from that he actually could kill Jack. That whether there's rules or not,
Hmm, hmm.
they're not gonna apply anymore. Even though, like, if Mother could set rules, I don't know why Jack can't set rules. But let's just set that aside and say that he could kill Jack, right? And that
Mhm.
Jacob, because he basically says that, like, no, you have to kill him because otherwise he's just gonna like keep trying to kill you all. Like,
But he is using that not quite affirmative voicing because he is certainly going to try.
mm-hmm.
Does it mean he's going to succeed? Is he capable? Um,
But he does say you must do what I couldn't, you know, and it seems like a confirmation that that means
but here's
kill
the
him.
but that I think that means kill him. But the problem with those words, what I couldn't do and what I wasn't able to do, is still doesn't clear why. Because that could mean like, you know, you can have those same sentences and it could be a story where he tried to kill him every day for 2,000 years.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
But it's like that's not what happened, and so it's still not clear. Like, were you not able to because of the rules?
yeah.
Because or
Right,
did you even want to kill him? I mean, he didn't want to kill him, right? I mean, he didn't care about Man in Black existing, and he also
right,
never said he also didn't care about innocent people to the degree that he said, "Hey, if you don't stop killing random people who show up on this island, I'm going to kill you." Like
right,
he never said that. Of course, he didn't say that because he didn't think he could kill him because it's what Mother
right,
said. But
right.
nevertheless, it's this weird. This is what's weird about this show is like this sentence I could talk about for an hour because of how it doesn't make any sense when you connect it to all the other things. He never wanted to kill him outright, but to say you must do what I could and what I wasn't able to do. Also, I wasn't really trying, but I wasn't able to because of rules, which is why I wasn't trying. But I also didn't have it a goal anyway. You know, it's so weird, man. I don't
Yeah,
understand it. It does
yeah.
something to my brain that I'm sure it does to your brain and anyone else's brain who's
Mm-hmm.
listening right now, where yeah, I just can't reconcile that. You know, other lines like this, I could say that's bad writing, or it doesn't make sense, or this is how it makes sense, and like put it to bed. But this is just like I want to punch Jacob in his mouth because like this doesn't make any sense. You're making it seem like, oh, I'm the noble Jacob who is battling tirelessly against, you know, evil incarnate for centuries, and
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't do it. And now you must take up the mantle to protect,
Mm-hmm.
you know, Earth from this monster. And it's like, dude, that's not the life you were living. You were weaving tapestries in a foot. You didn't care when he was like killing people all outside of the island. But so I don't get it. So it's like I don't know who they want Jacob to be. You know who the show wants us to think he is.
uh yeah, the characterization is weird and inconsistent. Yeah. No, I totally agree. But the other point I wanted to make about this line, just while I'm here, is in terms of the non-fail-safe plan, right? In terms of the
Mhm.
plan where the candidates don't die, right? So he's got Jack as a protector. He says you need to kill him,
Yeah.
basically, but he doesn't mention Desmond. So I go back to like, so then what does he expect them to do?
It
Like,
seems like after he picks who the new protector is, that he would tell them that. That's what I would expect at this point. Is he would say, "Cool, now you're the protector. This is how you kill him." But that's
right.
not gonna happen.
Yeah, he just tells him where the light is.
Mhm.
And it's like, yeah, but that doesn't
I don't think Jacob knows. I think he's intuiting all this. That's what he says, "I hope so." I honestly don't think he even knows what they're supposed to do, like, logistically, like, in a micro sense. Why would
but
he
what
know?
about the
He's
Desmond
never
plan?
I think he's like, "Desmond needs to go to the light. That's all I got, y'all." Like, that's all he's gonna say. Like, I think he's intuiting this stuff, and and that's it. Like, what else do you want from him? He hasn't defeated a smoke monster before. Like, he doesn't know like what he hasn't moved the cork before, so he doesn't know what it really does. It's just this weird, like, deep intuitions based, I guess, through their powers that they have. Um, but it reminds me of that Arntz thing about like, oh, monsoon season is coming. Like, it would have been interesting if like intuition as a specific thing with some sort of power. I mean, I know it comes in a general sense with some of the special people, a general idea of an intuition. Like if you were talking to
Right.
dead people or can hear the last thing they thought or whatever, that's something of like intuition. But you know what I
Yeah.
mean? If the arts thing had proven to be true or something, and it's like, oh well, one of the things on the island or whatever, if you're special or have powers, is like real intuition or something. So then you could say, okay, well, that's why people who are connected to the island have these strong intuitions. When Locke is like walking around, he's like, it's going to rain right now.
Yeah,
You know
yeah,
what I mean?
yeah.
Like all that kind of stuff. I wish that had been a little bit stronger. But when there is no island that's like, oh, well, it's because his connection to the island is strong or he's aligned with this path, whatever, like bullshit you want to come up with to like put a
Yeah.
framework around these random events. Without that, you don't really have that to really work with. But I wish that was a thing, and then I think it'd be easier in these scenes to be like, yeah, Jacob's just like, how does Jacob know his ash will do what he says it's gonna do when he puts it on the fire? Because I'll tell you, or a secret, when when uh when Ben stabbed him and Locke threw him in the fire, his ash was burning then.
Hmm.
So was that also a time that he was visible to everyone as a ghost?
We talked about that on the podcast. Yeah. It's a good point. It's weird. We talked about like, is that why the Man in Black kicks him into the fire? Like, was it supposed to like, prevent this from happening? But then like they collect the ashes, but this like they burn the ashes burn, which is weird because ashes are what happen after you burn something.
Here's
I
the
don't
thing.
know.
I just figured out why burning ash makes sense
Okay.
in a sense. We were just talking about how the connections between these realities comes through your consciousness, but it comes through like pain. Pain is a thing that can like soften the barrier between the worlds.
Right.
And I think that's something like an analogy to burning an ash. So the physical remnants of your body being
Mm-hmm.
on fire, like hurting, being
Mm-hmm.
pain, active energy against it is
Wow.
now connecting the afterlife and the present life.
Wow.
Yeah. 15 years of podcasting, you too can have a gym like that.
Wow, I've never thought that before. Wow, that's an interesting connection. I like a connection between the Ash story on the island and
Mhm.
this Flash Sideways stuff with Ben getting beat up and the general stuff with Locke and Charlie and all
Oh
that. That's
shit!
yeah.
I think I just figured out what the ash is. I think I just figured out what the ash is. No, that
Oh
can't be
no.
true. I was just gonna say, well, if the ash that we saw in this case we were talking about was Jacob's ash, what if the ash we saw before around the cabin, right? The classic ash
Mm-hmm.
circle. What if that was a previous island protector's ash, and that's why it worked in some sort of sense? Now, who would that be? Mother didn't burn.
Yeah, like I would want to believe that, but yeah, it seems like Mother's body was just like set in the cave and there was no Ash. But I like that idea. I remember in season 6, I wanted the Ash from Jacob's body to connect to the Ash that they had around the cabin and stuff.
Mhm.
But yeah, they never make that explicit. It kind of seems like it's two different Ash things,
Well, now I
which
wonder,
is
is it an ash of people? Because I guess I always thought it was like volcanic ash or
that's
just
what
like,
I assume too, but I have no idea.
but now
It
I'm
could
wondering if
be.
it's like, yeah, what if it's like the Egyptians or something or like,
Mhm.
there was like a purge or something happened, because
It could be.
everything's cyclical on this show.
Oh, I will say, this is something I learned. I don't remember if I said this on a podcast before, but even if I did, it's relevant, so I'll just repeat it real quick. They have said that you remember earlier in the show there was a thing about a volcano
Yep.
in the flashback, and we talked about it for a while, like how the volcano would come into play, and even up to the end, we were expecting a volcano. So anyway, they actually did some kind of interview or something where they said that their plan had been to have they first of all they were going to have the smoke monster, and the whole idea of the light cave and stuff that was actually going to center around a volcano, and
Mm-hmm.
so like the
Very
smoke
Lord of the
monster.
Rings.
Yeah, exactly. So the smoke monster was gonna like come out of the volcano, and Jack and Locke's like final fight was gonna be like as the volcano was like erupting, and there's gonna be like lava spewing everywhere and stuff like that. And basically
Wow,
they
that's
did
funny. Because yeah, sorry, go ahead.
basically they didn't do it for budgetary reasons.
We couldn't
So
afford a volcano, so they
it
had
was
the opposite of volcano, a light cave.
a light cave. Yeah, exactly. Anyway, sorry,
Yeah,
go ahead.
dark
That was
dark
it.
mount dark mountain and light cave. I can see that being the opposite. Um, I was gonna say, as you're explaining the very Lord of the Rings ending to Lost, which is weird because there's no like ring equivalent. Um,
I feel like the closest thing to a ring that we get is the idea of the claiming. It's not an object, but just in terms of the corrupting influence of the ring.
but that's the problem on this show is nobody wants anything. There's no central thing somebody wants.
Right. Yeah, it's true.
One person wants to leave, and like, well, everybody and eventually wants to leave at some point.
Yeah.
Pretty. But then some realize they need to stay. No, what I was gonna say when you're describing that kind of Lord of the Rings version of the ending is, you have Frodo and Smeagol slash Gollum fighting over the ring at the end at Mountain Doom, right? Uh, and I just thought, Smeagol and Gollum are one person, two people in one body, and that's the same with kind of Locke, a Man in Black, um, where he's got that split personality. So you could see the parallel of
Oh.
like Jack being Frodo
Mm-hmm.
and Man in Black being, the evil character.
Right.
Uh, so I could see them making sense to them to
Yeah.
make parallels.
Yeah, so I wanted to throw that in because I thought that, because the ash was introduced, actually in the same episode, where they talk about the volcano, that I feel like there's definitely a chance that the original vision for the ash was supposed to have
Hmm.
something to do with volcano.
Hmm.
I mean, that makes sense to me.
Yeah, and maybe it's like where he came from. Maybe it was supposed to be like a kryptonite thing. I could see them trying to pull
Yeah.
that example in there. So like
Yes, yes,
the
yes.
material that's part of the origin of the person is their kryptonite.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so then it would just be like this would be an example of, and this is where like I really wish I could like get more details like that about like stuff they planned to do but didn't.
Hmm.
Because like it's the kind of thing where the only way you can make sense of the story is if you know some stuff that they were gonna do but didn't.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, it's like, oh, okay, now the Ash like makes a little more sense. But if you just watch the show, it's like, what? Why is it Ash? Like, what?
Hmm.
What happened? I don't
I think they
understand.
also had a crackpot theory that the somehow the ash was magnetized or something.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, and the smoke monster was, yeah, also magnetized, or they repelled. Yeah, you had a whole thing a few podcasts ago about that.
yeah.
I forget what the full version of it was, but yeah, it was basically connecting the electromagnetism on the island with the, the fact that the smoke monster was created, through the light cave, and then
Mhm.
yeah, the ash would have been magnetized. So it was basically like a scientific explanation for why the ash would repel the smoke monster. I don't think it really
Sounds
explained
like
the
me.
Dogen thing, but
Don't get me started there.
yeah, that's we've gone down that road enough.
Okay, so what they died for, was that question answered?
Yeah, yeah, right. He said I'm gonna tell you what they died for, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, we must have learned that.
I don't think
What'd he
he
say?
really got back to that, did he?
Get your friends. I'm gonna tell them.
He
Yeah,
said
sit
start with why you brought us here, and you
down.
made a
I'll tell you
mistake.
what they died for. Why I chose them. Why I chose you. Okay.
Yeah, he
Uh,
didn't mention it.
hmm.
Now, he
Yeah.
does say, and here's what I hate too, speaking of things I hate. Here's Jacob. I brought all of you here because I made a mistake I made a very long time ago. And now, because of that, there's a very good chance that every single one of you and everyone you've ever cared about is going to die. Well, first of all, that's true anyway. Every one of them and everyone they've ever cared about is going to eventually die. So this is where I want to get like pedantic and be like, be specific here, Jacob. Like, is this one of those like weird like things where like, you know, like it's like semantics, because and then he starts it off with there's a very good chance. Well, what's a very good chance? I mean, 25% is a pretty good chance, but like to stake your entire life on it, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. So that's what's weird is he's not like I made a mistake and now it's absolutely guaranteed that everyone's gonna die. So how do you unpack this?
Okay,
I
so the way I would take that, and I agree, it's very ambiguous. So first of all, I would say that he means everyone's gonna die like soon, not just
mean,
naturally. I think he means that. Obviously, the words don't say that. And then I feel like when he says I feel like what a very good chance means is just he's just saying that I think he's just saying that there's a very good chance that the Man in Black will succeed. You
as
know,
opposed to
like I think as opposed to failing, as opposed to being defeated.
yeah, yeah,
I feel
yeah.
like I feel like he's just trying to raise the stakes. I feel like he's trying to say the Man in Black is close to achieving his goal, and if he does, then this thing will happen. So like the very good chance is that he'll
But
succeed, and therefore
why isn't it certain?
it's not certain that he's going to succeed. I feel like that's what he means
Well, if it's not
because he
certain,
wants him to stop him.
then why do they need to do anything? Oh, so it's only a very good
You see what
chance,
I'm saying?
but is it a very good chance if they don't do anything or if they do something or regardless?
See, I think so. I think what he means is there's a very good chance if I feel like he's saying there's a very good chance no matter what, basically.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously, there's an even better chance if you do nothing.
Yeah, so that's what I want to know. What's the difference in chance between doing something and doing nothing? I'm just saying he's not being as explicit as I want.
Yeah,
So
I feel like what he wants to say is basically like, because I made a mistake, you have to stop him or this is gonna happen. Like, I feel like
mhm.
that's what he means, but yeah, of course, that's not what he's saying, literally.
Yeah, yeah.
So, but that's how I take it. But yeah, obviously, and of course, Sawyer's question, what mistake? Like, oh, great, thanks. The question I know the answer to.
Yeah, and okay, and so when we get there, he says, "I made him that way." So first of all, I think that comes off weird to everybody listening. That oh, you snapped your finger and turned him into a smoke monster. It's like no,
Hmm.
I actually indirectly made him that way. I didn't know that was going to happen to him.
Right.
I don't think I knew that. But
I don't think he knew that.
yeah, okay. And then he says, ever since he's been trying to kill me. Well, that makes it seem like he's trying to kill you because you turned him into a monster.
Yeah.
And now he's sympathetic because well, you monsterized him. Of course he wants to
Hmm.
kill you. Who wants to be a monster? But like
Yeah.
that's not what happened either.
Yeah, he doesn't explain the context.
Yeah.
So as a result, like, I
Okay.
agree.
Then
Yeah.
we go to this is like all horrible. Then he go to it was only a matter of time before he figured out how. Oh, really? It was? Now, is that one of those like predetermined things where because he figured it out, then that now that retroactively means it was only a matter of time? Because what if he never figured it out? Then would it still have been true? Uh you know what I mean? So like what was because Jacob did Jacob know he was looking for a loophole? Okay, he did say.
Yeah,
He was
he
like,
told
I'm
him.
gonna kill you. I was like, I'm gonna
Yeah.
kill you.
He said one of these days I'm gonna find a loophole. So yeah. Yeah.
But why did
I
Jacob think there was a loophole possible? He should have
um
like there are no loopholes. Mom
yeah.
takes care of that.
Yeah. I mean, he did say you found your loophole when he shows up. So, you know.
What does mother know? And when he did, someone would have to replace me. Why? Because mother said one time that there always has to be a protector. Okay.
Pretty much. Yeah.
And that's why I brought you all here. Okay, what? We've been here for a long time. So how is what we've been doing related to what you're propositioning for us now? Like,
Right.
you know what I mean? You brought us here a while ago, dude. And some of us left
Hmm.
and came back.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
because this should be like, okay, so this whole thing was an experiment. It was a test. Is that what you're saying? You know, wait, Shannon Boone, are you really alive? Was this all a big reality show? Like, it's like, yeah, they're not going down that rabbit hole, but I just feel like there's room there. If they let this scene breathe, there'd be time for people to go, wait a minute, what's
Hmm.
happening here? Is
Yeah.
Jacob God? He seems like God.
Right.
He's just as much of an asshole.
Hmm. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
But
Yeah.
they don't
I
treat him
think
that
that
way
part will
anymore.
never make sense because,
Yeah.
like, the first part of the show still happened. Like, they can't take it back. It's
Mhm.
just, yeah, it's hard to reconcile that. Then what they try to say, even though they don't say it in this scene, but I feel like what the show tries to tell us to wiggle out of that problem is that Jacob doesn't want to tell people anything. Like, it's
Mhm.
crazy that he's even telling them anything right now. But I guess, like, if I wanted to save that idea for Jacob now, I'd say, well, he didn't tell him about Desmond, which is kind of a key thing for what they're supposed to do.
Yeah.
So, so it's like he wanted them to just, like, I don't know, figure stuff out themselves. It's weird. I don't really buy that. It doesn't work, but I feel like that's what the show tries to tell us to explain it.
Mhm. Yeah, then he says, "I didn't pluck any of you out of a happy existence." Well, like, give us time. Some days are better than others. Jeez. Um, And then he says, "You were
Yeah.
all flawed." Well, who isn't? So are there non-flawed people on Earth? Like
Yeah, we talked about
Jacob
that
was
on the podcast
completely.
too. It's
I
just
mean,
like that makes it seem like he could have just chosen anyone.
yeah.
Like there's so many people. I mean, yeah, like you're saying. I mean, pretty much everybody in the
Mhm.
world has flaws, right? I mean, come
Yeah,
on.
and then it's like, "Okay, I chose you because you were like me, you were all alone." Well, they felt pretty lonely being stuck on this island with strangers,
Hmm.
okay? You were all looking for something that you couldn't find out there, which was what?
Purpose, connections with other people. I don't know. Yeah, it's not clear. It's
But
weird because like most of them, the vast majority of them never care about the
that's
island.
what I was gonna say. I chose you because you needed this place as much as it needed you. Okay, well, let's go down the roster here. How
Hmm.
raise your hand if your time on this island was useful to you as your character growth. That's what I don't understand. Like, how is he in a position to say that about them versus what they would describe their experiences are? And that's what we don't get at the end of the show, right? The next episode we could get them commenting on this. Well, you know what, say what you will about Jacob, he at least brought us to a place that needed us as much as we needed it. Like,
Hmm.
we don't get those lines.
No.
So it doesn't, again, back to your original point about like the island being important, like it doesn't, they don't ever even say it, well, guys, if I had to do it all over again, I would have still booked that flight 8:15,
It's like
like,
that's what the Flash Sideways should have said,
yeah.
you know. But it didn't even quite say that. It I mean, I think it is true that like a lot of them crashed there, and even if they didn't care about the island or what they were doing there, and they just wanted to leave the whole time, like it did for some of them provide a context in which they were able to, make progress or
Hmm.
improve their like relationships or improve their like personal issues, psychology, what have you. Like it did, but like I think what is an open question is couldn't they have done that other ways too?
Well, that's a question. The second question is how many of them did it help and how many did it hurt? I mean, first of all, they experienced massive amount of trauma and pain and
Yeah,
anguish. Okay, and now maybe you could say, well, that's needed to for them to
they needed
find
that pain, just
fine.
like Locke said, right? Needed that
Yeah,
pain.
eat that pain. Well, that's what people who have no choice in experiencing pain sometimes say. Because it's like, well, I guess I have to choose to want this because I don't have a. Yeah, otherwise, I'm pushing against
Right.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I don't know. It's still unclear to me a lot of that, like how that's really supposed to work out. Um,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. I think it's pretty questionable because
I mean, the
I
people
definitely
who
think,
were killed and tortured and died. I mean, is that
yeah.
better for them than like the life that they had before?
Yeah, it's not obvious that, Charlie couldn't have kicked heroin
Oh,
in a different context, for example. Anyway.
hey, also he did mention I brought you here because I had a bet. I had a
Right.
bet with Nature of Humanity with the monster I made. And
Yeah, yeah.
what's funny is, in the classic like rom-com structure, there's a period at the end of Act Two where like the couple falls out of love, like in those movies like what is that movie like She's All That, where like
Mhm.
the movie where there's a secret that the person doesn't know and then they find out
Right.
at the end and then like they call the whole thing off. And I feel like it was
Yeah.
kind of like that, wait, Jacob, you had a bet? We were just pawns, and they're all offended, and it's like, and oh no, and like everything was going well until they found out that Jacob only did this because he had a bet. Like that's that's the other version of that story. It could have been where they were following,
Yeah.
they believed in him or something. You're just trying to. Yeah, I'm sorry, and I'm upset that you trying to pull a fast one on me. I'm the calm
I
man.
made a lot of bets, Jacob.
I ain't never made a bet that bad. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is a fundamental problem with the Jacob and Man in Black story. The fact that they introduce them to us with there's the original thing, which is the idea of the bet, like still trying to prove me wrong, huh? And like reconciling that with the candidates. Like I bring the candidates here and it's the flawed people because they need the island and that seems to have nothing to do with proving the Man in Black wrong.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't think the show really like reconciles those ideas at all. Or even
Why
try.
couldn't Jacob use his traveling ability or his um lighthouse to
Hmm.
find people in the real world who prove the point? And then he can say, "Hey, brother, come look at my
Boom.
lighthouse, and here's some examples of people being good."
No, he has to bring them there for some reason. Yeah, I don't
Right.
know. They because the Man in Black can't see the lighthouse because he might do something bad. I don't know.
Uh,
Yeah, yeah. It's tough. It's
well,
tough.
I was gonna say, as an episode, how is this How is this as an episode? So we've been talking a lot about just the information we get out of it.
Hmm.
I mean, I feel like as an episode, it's a mess.
Yeah, it's very spotty. It kind of feels disorganized. I guess I would say, yeah, the on island stuff is really just mostly setup. Um,
Mhm.
and I think the Flash Sideways had some motion. I mean, it's not necessarily good stuff, but it definitely feels like we're heading towards some conclusion. And if you listen to the podcast, like I remember being really excited about that, like because it felt like with Desmond taking these drastic actions of like
Mhm.
he
Mhm.
he turns himself in and then he does this like jailbreak and he's like he's got control of Christian Shepherd's body for some reason. Like he's like interfering and all. He's got this elaborate plan. They're going to go to this concert. We
Mhm.
thought the concert was a much bigger deal than it really is in the end,
Mhm.
because they make it seem like a big deal. But like it really feels like, oh my god, like something crazy is about to happen in the Flash Sideways. So I think like from that point of view, it's good. Now when you watch it again and you know where it's going,
Mhm.
eh, doesn't necessarily it doesn't necessarily work as well, really. Yeah, I kind of regret the Flash Sideways. It's weird. Parts of it work for me, and parts of it I just kind of wish they had. I'm just like waiting for them to have their memories and be normal again. Because like
Yeah.
the versions of them where they forget, it's just a little harder to care because it's just like I think I again, yeah, I don't know. I mean, some of this stuff belongs in the finale, but like um I think one problem I have with the Flash Sideways in terms of and this I think goes back to the idea of like is it a reality or not, how real is the Flash Sideways, how should we take it. I think one problem I have with it with the way it plays out is that like once they have their memories and I really mean like at the very end, once they
Mhm.
really get their memories, they're flooding in and they remember everything and they understand that they died and they understand that now they have the opportunity to move on and stuff. Like
Mhm.
it seems to me that they cease to give a shit about
Mhm.
anything that happened in the Flash Sideways.
Mhm.
Like they don't I mean yeah, they just don't seem to care. Like and I think the most dramatic example of that is Jack's son. Like Jack's son vanishes
Mhm.
and he doesn't ask about him. He doesn't mention him. And it's technically
Mhm.
Juliet's too. She doesn't say anything. Claire's there with him in this episode. She doesn't say anything. Like, they just all like so we talked about like do they abandon him or whatever, like he's never shown again. Like he goes to the concert, Jack or Claire goes backstage to give birth and Jack ends up
Spoiler
talking to
alert.
Kate and then getting in a limo, or not a limo, but anyway going to the church basically from there.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
and they just leave him behind. And so, like, to me, that's an indication that, nothing in the Flash Sideways really matters once they realize that it's the afterlife, that
Just
they
like
lived a real life.
just like in follow me here, just like on the island, nothing mattered. Just like in life, nothing matters.
Oh no, don't tell me
Lost,
that.
lost.
Oh god.
The most nihilistic show there is.
So I think that's the problem I have with the Flash Highway stuff, because I think the way they build it is generates intrigue, but once you know where it's going and you know how the characters react to it, it's just really hard to care about these like arbitrary things. Like, who cares about this
You know what it's
jailbreak?
like?
And
It's like if you saw someone making like a mural or something, you saw someone doing some art and you were like really fascinated with like step by step they were doing, as you're watching like the intricate details of like what's happening. And then but once they're done, you take a step back and all they did was paint a stop sign. And you're like, "Oh,
yeah,
well now that you're no longer crafting the thing, now that I've taken a step back and I see the whole picture, this is nothing."
I've kind of lost interest. Yeah,
And
yeah,
so that's why I feel like the magic of the show is in the actual kinetic energy action of the story being told. It has your interest.
yeah.
But when you get to the end and then there's nothing else to hold on to. The energy's gone when the story's not being told, and the story isn't as good when you kind of look back on it. From what the pieces that are left. So yeah, it's a weird thing. It's a weird one.
Yeah, yeah, I agree.
It's like Lost is more enjoyable to watch than have watched.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I
In
think,
some respects, yeah.
yeah, and I think that does apply to a lot of the stuff. But I do feel like the Flash Sideways is undercut like even more than most things on the
Mm-hmm.
show.
Yeah.
Um, even though it is actually true of a lot of things, and that's a pattern they've gone back to many times. So it's not surprising that they would go back to it at the end. Um, uh, but yeah. I think there are parts of the Flash Sideways that I enjoy. It's
Like
just
what?
like what you say. Um, I think I enjoy it when they do. I think I enjoy it when they do these little um like pseudo callbacks, and like when they sort of comment on the stuff that's happened before in this
Mm-hmm.
weird way in this like new universe. That scene with Jack and
Oh, when
Locke,
it's like the show you want to really see.
yeah,
Got it.
something like that. Something like that. And in the first episode of this season, the stuff on the plane and all that, the initial
Mm-hmm.
bit, I feel like there are times where the Flash Sideways, Dr. Linus is a little bit like this too, where it captures this kind of weird quasi allegorical like commentary on the show, and I think I do enjoy that even when it doesn't matter that much.
Mm-hmm.
If there's just something, because I'm so attached to the show, because I'm attached to the characters, I think that's the stuff I can get behind. It I think the stuff that really doesn't work for me so much is like, yeah, some of the Desmond stuff. um I agree he's too smug. I just kind of wish they wrote it differently. I wish it wasn't Desmond waking everyone up. i
I
i
agree. I
I
wish it was
want
a
that to be
telephone
different.
game. I wish it was the same way that Locke went around to try to convince everyone to go back to the island. I kind of wish it was, and then everyone kind of had their own reasons for going back after
Hmm.
that. I kind of wish
Yeah.
it was a more chain kind of a thing. Well, one person wakes up another person, and they wake up the closest person to them, and they wake up the closest person
Hmm.
to them, and
Yeah,
not
it
not like one,
spreads.
yeah, and it spreads. And maybe Desmond, because they do need someone driving the action, like maybe he is ultimately responsible, but like not doing every single part of it, right? So maybe he knocks
Yeah.
over the first domino, right? But he knows that it's going to, he's, Jack's going to get the K, or Jack's going to
Hmm.
get the lock or whatever.
I mean, I think that's what they're aiming for. I just think they don't hit the target because, like, it is true that like he does a lot, but also like he sets things in motion. You know, um, like the thing with Locke in this episode. He makes this comment to Ben, who repeats it to Locke, and then
Well, see,
Locke
and
goes
that's
to
the thing, and
Jack.
that's what's really weird about the show is the same thing that Mother did, right? Where it's this weird thing of control, where she puts the control and these boundaries, but then she says, "Oh, by the way, you have free will,
Right.
but I also tricked you and set up these circumstances for you to have limited choices in the free will that you have."
Right.
So you know what I mean. So
Yeah.
that's what makes it strange is instead of it being like, because I feel like you want the Flash sideways without Desmond. You wonder what is the Flash sideways story going to be anyway, right? Because I feel like what you want the place to be is for them to organically wake up
Yeah.
eventually.
Yeah.
But because we don't get to see that happen, because Desmond intervenes, we don't even know what the organic version is,
Right.
and then he just like kicks things up. He's making all the big moves for everybody,
Yeah.
and he gives them a little bit of a choice. But look at Ben. I mean, he pounded the guy. I mean, there's no
Yeah.
choice there.
Right.
You know. So yeah, I just I wish that, and the fact that he was so smug about it. He also had like
Yeah.
zero. He was just completely confident that it was going to work versus being like,
Yeah.
I don't know, or how am I going to handle this, or what do I do now? Um, I guess that's what's weird. And it's that same blind devotion that he had about finding Penny when he was on the
Right.
island that makes a barrier for me connecting with Desmond, because it ultimately feels selfish.
Yeah.
He's not doing this stuff for their own good. He's doing it because he wants to get back to Penny. And he
Of
doesn't,
course.
or
It's
even
always
doing
that.
it, or even like, listen, guys, we're the candidates, and I have to send my consciousness to the afterlife in order to wake you guys up from a false reality so we can stop the evil incarnate from destroying the world. It's not that, so it's like, it's weird how he comes across, and if you like Desmond, I feel like this is like great stuff. He's in control of
Right.
everything. But I feel like if you're normal, no, I'm kidding.
Two kinds of people in the world: people who like
Yeah,
Desmond and
the
normals.
normal, the norms, the normies. Uh, but if you don't just like him for no good reason,
Right. Right.
then I feel like it's harder to connect with like him being in control of all these things, and it's almost like, is it just because they didn't have enough story time? Like, if they had 5 more episodes, would they have written Desmond differently? You know, um,
Hmm.
is it like, well, guys, we have to, there's no way to tell the story without somebody moving it as fast as we need the story to move, manually. So yeah,
Right.
it's a weird one, and plus Desmond, like, he doesn't give a shit about any of these people. He never did. Like,
Yeah.
God. So that's the other thing too. You know, uh, yeah, I don't know, ranting.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, the other thing that bothers me is like I just can't believe that this is how it's supposed to work, like normally for like a normal group of people that doesn't have a Desmond. Like I think it's like you're saying it's supposed to be a more of an organic thing. And I think the other thing that bothers me about Desmond is the fact that Desmond doing all this stuff is predicated on Widmore's test. Like I
Mm.
can't get over that. Like that like their whole afterlife experience depends on Widmore doing this test. Like what? Like I just can't I don't know. That will never not bother me cuz it just seems so arbitrary. Like really? What if he hadn't done the test? Like what if the sub like
Wait,
sunk like
Widmore's test is important as a Widmore pregnancy test? What are you saying about the importance of Widmore tests on the
Oh my
island?
god. Oh my god. Who would bring a pregnancy test on the
Yeah,
airplane?
who would bring a magnetic test on a submarine? Um, I think yeah, maybe that's a callback. Can I make it work? Let's see. That was Sun's pregnancy test, right?
Yeah, from
And
season
it was, and
2.
it was positive,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And what
Oh
is
no.
magnetism? Positive and negative. And what's Desmond? Sometimes positive and sometimes negative.
Oh my god.
So Desmond tests with the flash sideways. Point proven.
I can't believe this is where we ended up. Oh my god. Women's pregnancy test.
Mm-hmm,
I
mm-hmm.
love the idea that that's a callback. It almost works, to be honest, and I hate that even more.
Yeah, he was birthed into a new reality test, right?
Sure, sure. Yeah,
It was
I'll
a
buy that.
shocking result when he got shocked with electromagnetism, right? Just like the pregnancy test. Both smuggled to the island, I think, in a way.
Indeed, indeed.
Um, let's see. How else are they similar? Let's see. You got yeah, I'm out.
It's enough.
God, the pregnancy test. Who brings a pregnancy test on an air? Well, I don't know. Someone who bought it and then decided to get on a plane with it. Like, I know.
Yeah, I guess it's like
All the crazy things that happened on the island. That was not one of them.
yeah, Kate was just like, no, I can't
Yeah,
handle this.
yeah.
This
That's
is
far
too
no
crazy.
further. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess the idea, I've never even thought about it, to be honest, which is weird because I've known about that scene for like 15 years now. Anyway, I feel like maybe the idea is like, well, if you buy a pregnancy test, why don't you just take it? Like, why are
Mm-hmm.
you bringing it with you? You know, I
Mm-hmm.
guess. Like, I
Yeah,
kind
yeah,
of get that.
yeah. And I think there's some idea of like, did someone intend to do the test on the
On the
plane?
plane, yeah.
Like they need to know before they land, sort
Mm-hmm.
of deal. Um, anyway,
It's
so
just
that's how
like, is it an emergency? Like they had to do it right that minute? Like, couldn't they just get one in LA? Like, yeah, I don't know.
Mhm.
Anyway, I feel like that's the idea of like, why would you bring a pregnancy test on an airplane?
Yeah.
But I also think it's just a contrivance because they wanted to explain why it was there. Like, and if
Hmm.
they just acknowledge that it's weird, then they can do anything they
And then they stopped doing that.
want.
They just
Indeed.
did whatever they wanted without acknowledging it was weird. Uh, so what else? Yeah, yeah. I wish this show made more sense. They get close a lot of times.
Yeah. There's like certain threads where if you follow it, there's sort of a logical progression. You know, they try to tie it together. It's it's it works sometimes. It feels like a normal show sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
I
once
think
again, it
that's
feels normal when you're not paying attention. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And I think that's where disappointment can creep in because like if you're just watching it like a normal show and then you get to the end, it's like, what? Like
Mm-hmm.
that's not the show I was watching. It's weird. Um yeah, I think this episode is very maybe too serialized. Like there's no like central theme or point to the episode. I think that's the main problem with it. It's just like a bunch of scenes. There's really no thread there.
Yeah, because there's a
You know what I
lot
mean?
going on. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's like whatever you want to say about Across the Sea or Abiturno or whatever, like you know, those episodes have their problems, but one thing they do have is like a clear through line.
Yeah.
and like point, and yeah, this one, the last few of the season are all kind of, well, I guess Candidate was pretty focused too, since it was sort of all towards the submarine stuff.
Mhm.
But the one before that, the Last Recruit, was sort of like this too, where it was just like, well, we need like these characters to move from here to there. We need to like progress this little bit and that little bit, and we'll just like throw it together and call it an episode.
Mhm. Do you think when Jacob was like, "Oh, Kate, your name was crossed off the wall because you were a mother, but it's just some chalk. I don't really you didn't have to
Hmm.
tell me." Was that like a retcon? Like, did they want us to think something else had happened when we saw that moment? Um, and now they're just sort of giving us another answer for it. Because that just seemed weird. That seems weird to me that was their original plan was, well, when we see the names in the cave, we'll have Kate's name crossed off. But that's only because she's a mother and Jacob doesn't really care. It just seems like if Jacob didn't really care, then it wouldn't have been crossed off.
Yeah, I mean, I think like in terms of this show, that actually feels like relatively normal to me, that they would write it like that. But I agree that it's weird and it doesn't really make sense. I do think that they wanted us to wonder why her name was crossed off, and is it possible that they had another reason in mind?
Hmm.
Maybe, but what I will say is that, there is that monologue from earlier in the season, with Man in Black and Kate about, where he talks about his crazy mother. And so they did have like the mother thing sort of, and the Claire stuff too. Like they had all of that kind of weaving throughout Kate's story in the season. So it feels to me like they could have meant that to have been the plan, but they wanted people to speculate on it. But they've done many, I think, confirmed retcons. So the idea that maybe they had another plan, yeah, it's 100% possible.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even believe Jacob writing the names in the cave like that. I don't even buy that he would
He
do it.
talked about it, right? Like it's
I
like
mean, what's wrong with paper?
he basically said he crossed it off. So it's like but it's like, why though?
It's
Why
the
did you
worst
do
way to
that?
keep tablature of information. That's the worst way.
It's really weird. It's really weird. I don't know why they didn't just say that was the Man in Black's cave. It would have been
Mhm.
way simpler.
Yes, yes, it would have made way more sense.
It's bizarre. Especially because the exact same names are reproduced in the lighthouse
Yeah,
in a more organized
Jacoby
fashion.
fashion. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, but it's like, nah, he just did it two times.
yeah. Because
Okay.
was it in chalk on the cave wall or was it carved in rock? The names.
I think it was chalk because,
Okay.
well, maybe chalk's the wrong word, but like the Man in Black. Oh, and here's something to make it a little worse. When the Man in Black goes there with Sawyer, he actually crosses off Locke's name with like a little rock.
Gotcha. So that
So
does make it worse.
yeah, I know. I realized it as soon as I was saying
Well,
it. I mean,
why is he crossing off Locke's name on Jacob's wall?
because he's dead, I guess.
But it's Jacob's wall. Why is he keeping track of something on Jacob's wall?
Yeah, I agree. Because he's dead now and it doesn't matter. I don't know. He's like making a point when he does that. He's like telling Sawyer, like, well, here's what you could do. You could sit here and like see how things play out, and maybe your name will get crossed off. He's like making a vague threat, I think. Um,
Yeah,
to
which
like make
makes
a
it seem
point.
like that's why Kate's name was crossed off because she was dead or something.
Yeah, 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 yeah. We did speculate about that some, I think. Although I don't really remember what we said. I should listen to those podcasts to see. Because I don't actually remember what people said. And I don't remember anyone saying, oh, maybe it was just because she was a mother.
I don't remember anybody saying that either.
That was not a theory. Because it doesn't. I don't know. But Jacob, he had a thing. The mothers, I don't know. It like sort of makes sense.
His mother was protector of the island.
Yeah, that's true. And he does say you could have the job. So
Yeah.
it's like
And
it's
so why
weird.
did he?
It's like
Yeah, why did he presume? What he should? I feel like what he should have said was, "You left the island, so cross your name off the list." Now other people left too, so this.
right. Yeah, he should have crossed like all of them off
But I
except
feel like he should
Sawyer.
have been like he should have been like, "You left, and you had a circumstance that made it seem like you would never come back." I know that's
Yeah.
longer and not very pithy, but it's more to the point.
I do feel like that's what he means.
Yeah, when he
Because
said,
like I think that also helps with the Sun problem because Sun was a mother too, but she had Jin to come back for.
mm-hmm. So Sun's name's not crossed off the list
Because she had Jin to come back for.
but she's still a mother.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But I was just saying it in terms of like it isn't necessarily about Kate being a mother. It's about the idea that she wouldn't want to come back to the island.
Yeah, but who cares what she wants? Doesn't Jacob make people do whatever they want all the time?
Yeah, no, yeah. Well,
I
yeah.
know.
The other way you could go with that, which was your theory from the time, which was that that means it's actually Jin, because there's only one Quan name on the wall, so like that it actually referred to Jin. It's
Yeah.
not confirmed either way.
Yeah.
Because they asked the question several times, is it Sun or Jin? And even in the scene, like Kate mentions Sun and Jin, but Jacob doesn't say anything either way about it. So anyway, it could be true that it meant Jin because he's big on mothers or something. Who knows?
And people who become fathers, it doesn't matter.
Who cares? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, he was on the island already, so it's like, well, you're a father, but you can't. I don't know. Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
Yikes. All right. Well, one episode left.
Well, only one more to go. The end.
The end of the end. Yeah, long journey here, but yeah, I'm trying to think. We went through watching the show originally. Now we've gone through this commentary series, and I'm like, how much more do I understand the show now than when the show originally ended? No, seriously, I'm asking. Please tell me.
I would say that, if you want to, it depends on the level you want to talk about. Like in terms of like the details of the story, probably not a lot more. Some, but not a lot more. But I do think in terms of conceptually, like what the show's doing, how it works, its effect on the audience, I do feel like we've progressed on that.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like my general, and it helped having other Damon Lindelof shows too to really like solidify the thing that's going on in the
Listen, she knows that's her brother's shirt. So whoever they have down,
Oh God.
whoever they have down in the station,
Oh my God.
it's her brother, and she knows it.
You're digging deep with that.
The Diary on ABC.com.
Oh my God.
We used to talk about that.
Oh right, my brother died, but I thought he was in the cat in the.
I guess I have lost my mind. Yikes! That Diary was so awful.
It was. There's a lot of that extra stuff, the Lost experience and Bad Twin.
Hmm.
That era was really rich with like extra
Yes.
curricular law stuff that was kind
Mhm.
of worthless.
That had no way of helping Impossible, but you're like, oh, this will help. No, it's
Yeah,
not.
it felt like everything mattered back then, you know?
Yeah, and
It
literally
felt like it
nothing
would help to like unravel the mystery, but
better.
yeah,
Mm-mm.
it was just a waste of time.
Yeah, I mean, there's few higher points in the show than the blast door map. I mean,
Yeah,
yeah, it was like the Rosetta Stone of figuring out the show, and nobody cared.
within a few weeks it was blown up and no one
Hmm.
mentioned it again.
Nope. I think was did I have a theory like, oh, maybe they'll find the blast door map remnant or something, or like
Yeah, you did. You did.
holding out hope.
We were hoping. We were definitely hoping. Yeah, the path to the Pearl Station. That's the only thing they ever did with it. That was it.
Just imagine writing that episode coming out. I was like, okay, well, he's got to get to the Pearl Station. How's he going to find the Pearl Station? Oh, I got a great idea. He opens a drawer and there's a map. No, we need something bigger than that. Hmm. What if a wall falls on him and on that wall is a map? That sounds better.
Ah, yes, genius.
Yeah. But when you look at the wall, it's invisible at first. Even better.
Ah, of course. Why are there black lights installed? Shut up.
For this very moment. How did they
How did
write
they
the
paint it?
blacklight with that? Oh, jeez.
Why
Chemical.
would they
How did
paint it with the
how
black
did
light
they?
off?
Yeah. How did they wash their clothes after they got it? The chemicals on it. Laundry machine. Okay. Well, all the problems are solved. Run with it.
Wow, that's literally what happened.
Yeah, that was a quote. Yeah. Wow. I think. Yeah, the show is so perfectly imperfect that it's really, yeah, it's really weird to just be like, I don't know, is Frodo really the right one to take the ring? I mean, people are saying he's the only one with the courage who can handle the burden of the ring, but I don't know. I mean, you know what I mean? Like there's these
Well, you
themes.
know me, I think he failed completely and just got lucky. So,
Well, yeah, that's how you, yeah. He went 99% of the way, proving he could do it, and at the 1% mark, he got lucky. So
when
if
it
that
really counted, though, he totally failed. No, I'll give him credit. I'll give him some credit.
99% credit is enough credit for me. Um, I mean, obviously, hey, listen, you could have done it without Sam, so Sam gets
True.
50 anyway.
You know what? Sam never faltered, unlike
Yeah.
Frodo.
Well, he didn't have the burden of the ring,
Well, that's true.
so he had the strength to keep going. That's
That's
why it's a
true.
perfect story because they all needed each other. No one can do it alone, and that's the whole point. Um, unlike Lost, where Desmond was like, "Bitch, I can do it alone. I'll wake everybody up myself."
I don't care.
I'm Frodo and Sam
And Gollum.
and Gollum. I'm Isildur and his Bane. Okay. Um. Yeah, I think. Yeah, that's what's so weird about the show is it just, yeah. But anyway, I'm interested to see how it ends. I hope Man in Black wins and gets off the island because I can't wait to see the whole world die somehow. Although he
Hmm.
never said he wants to do that.
True.
Um,
I never will.
mm-mm. You know what's weird is he finally comes to a point, the first time ever, he's like, "Well, I'll destroy the island," and now that seems to retroactively tie back to the initial threat. That if he quote gets what he
Hmm.
wants, which subtext is getting off the island, but now has been swapped to destroying the island. So now, if he gets
Hmm.
what he wants, the island gets destroyed, and then we go back to if the island's destroyed, the whole world ends. So now,
Yep.
if what he wants is for the world to end.
Yep. 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 Even
it's
though
like,
that couldn't
even
have
though
been what they meant.
that's not what he meant at any point in time. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's weird. It's
Yeah,
weird.
it's like their theory was right just by like luck.
Mhm. It was right, but, like, not when they said it. It was like
Right.
they were future right.
It was future right. Yeah, it was going to be right later. I mean, that's what happens with Jacob in this episode. He's like, you got to protect it from him. It's like he wasn't even going to go there until this episode.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's what's weird about the time travel aspect of the show. It's not clear, have any of these people gone further in the future than we've seen? You know,
Mm-hmm.
do they know anything about that? So, so it's,
Yeah.
it has that element of like, well, maybe there's some reason. But yeah, it's weird. That would have been a great moment if somebody could have called that out. Well, you said this thing and you were wrong. And he's like, check again. I'm right now. Or whatever. It's like, I was
Right.
wrong 5 seconds
Right.
ago, and now I'm right.
Right. Right.
Therefore, I was right the whole
Actually,
time.
it's funny you mentioned that. There's a sort of a mini version of that in the Desmond episode, Flashes Before Your Eyes, because
Mhm.
he goes to the bar and like he's expecting like a song to come on, and then like a thing to happen with the soccer match or something, and then like something happens at the bar,
Mhm.
right? So he goes there with his friend to like prove that he knows the future, and
Yeah.
like the song comes on, and he's like, okay, and then this is gonna happen, then that's, and it doesn't.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh no, like, and the friend's like, oh well, I guess you're crazy or something, like. But then what happens is he goes back there after breaking up with Penny, and he realizes he had the wrong day,
Yeah.
and all the stuff happens.
Yes. He was future right.
So it was future right,
Mhm.
basically.
And so is the lesson just to believe in yourself and you too can be future right? So even if at the moment right now it seems like you're wrong, you can eventually be right in the future. I feel like there's like a lesson there.
Maybe
Yeah.
if you want to take one, yeah,
Yeah. There's
kind
something.
of works.
See, that's why it's like, Jack, you don't have what it takes. You has what it takes.
You will have. Oh, okay. You has.
You has it now. You will has what it takes is what I want to say, Jack. You will has it. Um, yeah, I think that's how it works. Yeah, so
You
that.
are going to has it very soon,
Mhm.
or later than that.
You've already had it, Jack. Yeah, maybe that's what it is, and so that's all it takes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll buy that.
Mhm.
Why not?
All right. Well,
Here we are.
here we are, episode 200. 200 out of the park. That's a lot of podcasts.
It is. Couple
That's
more to go.
That's 199 more than I thought we'd do. Um,
You thought we'd do one. That's what you're saying.
that's what I'm saying.
Nice.
And we did more than one.
We did.
Some number more than one. I don't know that number offhand.
Oh man, you could be future right.
It could be future.
I-
Right. Yeah, I don't know it now, but I'm gonna guess that we do 201 podcasts, and I'm gonna see if we're right.
I'm
Because
gonna
right
say
now
we do
we're wrong. Because I'm wrong right now. We haven't done 201.
215.
Oh, you're gonna get. Oh, I meant like guaranteed.
Oh, okay, guaranteed. Yeah,
You're
yeah.
getting it to. You're gonna be real future right. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. No,
14
because I
episode ideas that I have.
I wanted to do. I think we gotta at least do. It could be a short one. It might not even be a full episode, but I think we do have to talk about the new man in charge.
Mm-hmm.
It's 10
He's
minutes.
the old man in charge now.
So true. Yikes.
The middle-aged man in charge. Okay, and what's your other 13 ideas?
So the other thing I wanted to do was go back to the pilot. I've been obsessed with this whole time because we did the pilot between this episode and the last one. So when we did our pilot commentary, we didn't know what the final episode was going to be.
Okay.
So I feel like that changes things a little bit, and I've always wanted to go back and do the pilot with.
And then while we're there, we might as well do the second episode.
Well, so yeah, we could go full circle, or we could go the circle ends at the beginning, which is what I had in mind.
The circle is the beginning. Okay. Well, there's some nonsensical logic to that, which is my favorite.
That's a circle, right? Come on.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that what a circle does? Circle round, you back to the beginning. The end is the beginning.
Don't describe a circle to me.
Circle, circle, circle. Come on.
Because, by the way, that's also an oval. So now what?
They're the same to me. Come on.
Oh, ooh, look who's the same. Circle is not an oval, but an oval is a circle.
It's a roundy thing. Come on, that's all I need.
Well, speaking of roundy things, we'll be
Let's
back
roundy.
let's roundy up this podcast thing. Let's make this a round thing and stop it.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
All right, thanks for listening to 200 Podcast, and we'll be back
Thank you.
next time.
Indeed.
Thanks and namaste.
Namaste and good luck.